Good morning. It's 9 o'clock and time for the 2016-2017 budget workshop at the Board of County Commissioners of New River County. We're going to begin with an invocation by Commissioner Wesley Davis, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Joseph Flesher. Please rise.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity that we have to come before you to conduct the public's business. May we use your guidance and your knowledge and your wisdom as we set forth the budgets for the County Commission and the various departments for the coming fiscal year. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the greatest nation on earth. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We're going to begin with a general overview of the budget, and this will be led by the County Administrator, Jason Brown. Good morning, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. So today we have before you the proposed 2016-2017 fiscal year budget. The total budget amount is $308,029,307, a decrease of 9.9% from our current year budget at March 31st. And this is our, call this the Commissioner Solari screen slide, where we talk about the beginning budget was was just a touch under $280 million, so we are up $28 million from that budget. That's primarily due to a fluctuation in capital projects between the 2 years and increases in the facilities that we have. So today the overriding, we have kind of three main themes in this budget. I'll say one is we've got some new facilities that we're bringing online that we will operate next year. We also have some issues with our current existing facilities and our renewal and replacement of those facilities. That's number two. Also have a 2A, which is some energy efficiency upgrades at those facilities, and a 2B, our conservation lands. And then number three, we have increased technology improvements and customer service improvements. So as we go through this, we'll be kind of highlighting a lot of those things. Those are kind of three overriding themes. So our major budget impacts, we had a 6.2% tax roll increase. Countywide, we're still below the peak taxable value by about 19%, below what it was in 2006, 2007. One of those new facilities that we have is Fire Rescue Station 15 in the North County area, where we're proposing to relocate the modular unit that we had at Station 1 during renovations to the North County pool to serve an area that we've had on the list for a while, that we were planning to add a station to in a couple of years in the future, actually, but the board said due to the underserved area there and the growth in that area, the board gave us direction to move that facility there, and we are planning to staff that next year with a total of 10 employees to staff an ALS engine at a cost of about $1.3 million a year. We've got the health insurance increase that we talked about earlier this year. That's an impact of the budget by about $1.6 million. We do have the OPEB change in there, which is a savings of about $500,000. So the net between those two is about a $1.1 million increase. Building department, we are adding some staffing and trying to make some customer service improvements there as well. We've also looked at the building permit fee level for those valuation-based permits. We're recommending a 5% decrease in the rate. Back to that existing facility thing, we've got various roof replacements, such as the health department for about $300,000, jail for $600,000, and the courthouse for about $750,000. And this is once again a little bit of catch up on our deferred maintenance during the downturn to help us get through the downturn. Total position increases about 32 3/4 full-time positions countywide. About 31 of those are Board of County Commissioner positions at a cost of about $2.1 million. The largest chunk, 10 of those, are for Station 15 that we mentioned. We've got another 6 that are related to new facilities that were the other new facilities, the IG building and the shooting range, and then about 8 relating to development and permitting. So the shooting range, as I mentioned, one of those new facilities, an increase of about $307,000 in expenditures, 2 full-time positions, 4 part-time positions. We do anticipate that in the long run, the revenues should cover the expenses in this. This is something that that's been a long time coming, getting this permitted. It has taken years to get that through the permitting process. I always say it's good for us to have to go through a difficult permitting process. It kind of lets us see from the other side when we're a permitting agency, so that we gives us that perspective that to make sure that our permitting process is as efficient and open as possible.
One short question on the shooting range. How many quarters of sustainable revenue would you like to see for it to then be looked to shift it to an enterprise fund?
I think if we could get a year's worth of it breaking
Okay.
even, then we could make that adjustment back to the enterprise fund. I know that's been a big goal here, and we can get that done, and get that moved back over. We think it may take a little while to get everything up to speed, and some of the things like tournaments that we think we can have there, you got to be in the pipeline a while ahead of time, so it may take a little while before we get to that break-even point, but we think we'll get there, and we're very close. You know, in this discussion, sometimes I think it gets lost how close we are already. We're covering 85% of our costs right now, which is very good for a recreation facility. You know, if you look at the pools, we're more like 25-30%. So we think this will put us over the top, be that good tourism impact that we can have those outside folks come here, and also just another amenity for our local folks. So it's something great that's for our local residents and also for visitors, to bring visitors here. Intergenerational facility building, it's about $400,000 in additional operating expenses there. We've got 4 additional full-time positions. One of the things we did to minimize the cost impact of that is we're moving a lot of our current recreation staff into the IG building, so they'll be able to do their function there at that building, but they'll also be able to help out run the facility and program that facility. So that has helped us minimize that additional cost. However, it is $400,000 in additional cost. We are trying to maximize our revenue there. We've gotten so far a great response from the community. We think that will be a hub of activity based on the initial response that we have gotten there. Conservation lands, one of the existing facility items. As you know, we've had the 2 bond issues for $26 million and $50 million. We've matched those with grants, a lot of those purchases. So we've got over $100 million invested in our conservation lands, and we see the need to make the improvements to those lands so that we can improve access, and our residents can get out and enjoy those conservation lands. And there are a lot of grant requirements requiring us to make these proposals, these changes. So we are increasing our conservation land staff by 1. Our conservation lands department is currently 1, so we're doubling it, going to 2. And those folks will be able to maintain the property better, and also they'll be overseeing a lot of those improvements, the walking trails, the information kiosks, the pavilions that we are putting in there. And we have about $485,000 in conservation improvements scheduled for next year as well. One of the questions that we get sometimes is our Gifford community expenses. We did the Gifford neighborhood plan, and we've got the report card there, and we've got a capital project listing. When you add those all together, you're looking at about $400,000 or $500,000 in capital projects specifically designated to the Gifford area for next year. So next, we've got just a summary of our history on the general fund. Millage, we've kept that pretty well current, flat during the downturn, and keeping it flat during the recovery. The next slide just shows historical population growth and slowdown during the downturn, and the tax roll along with it. So where does the rubber meet the road in this? Our biggest concern is the taxing funds, and what's the impact on the property tax rate. So we've got 4 tax rates. The general fund is the big one that everybody pays. Current millage rate is 3.3602 mils. We're looking at no change in the millage rate there. Land acquisition bonds that funded those conservation lands, that's going down slightly because the debt service is fixed, but with the tax roll increase, we're able to decrease the millage rate slightly. So if you look at that countywide tax rate, it's down about 0.5%, so we think that's good news. Next is the MSTU fund, which you all know well is the tax that those in the unincorporated area pay. So I call that the city for you if you don't live in a city, and 66% of county residents are in the unincorporated area, so that impacts 66% of our residents and taxpayers. There is no change in the millage there. Emergency Services District funds our fire rescue, and that is, everybody pays into that with the exception of Indian River Shores, who has their own public safety department. So Dylan's off the hook on this one. There is a 2%, a slight 2% increase in the tax rate there. That is better than we anticipated when we were doing the analysis earlier this year. If you'll recall, we were thinking that was a 5.3% impact. So due to the tax roll growth and some cost containment measures, we're able to get that to come in at a 2% increase. And the aggregate millage, which we're required to report, is to Department of Revenue, but it's kind of an average. It's a theoretical rate. We're up 0.7% there. Next is the comparison to rollback. So we're about 4.5% over rollback in the general fund and MSTU, about 6.5% on Emergency Services District. Rollback does not apply to the land acquisition bonds, and the aggregate's up about 5.1%.
Jason?
Yes.
Prior to the Great Recession, rollback was like I don't know, it was what you wanted to achieve somehow in government budgeting. And then all of a sudden the Great Recession hit and determined that rollback is really this mysterious figure behind a curtain of Oz of somehow. And at what point will it get back to being relevant again?
Well, I would say that's a great question. So rollback during the downturn became roll forward because normally in Florida the tax roll grows over time. Each year we got more people coming, the values go up. So usually the rollback rate is less than the current rate. What we had happen during the Great Recession when the tax roll dropped 31% is it went the other way. So we didn't go to the rollback rate. That was specifically as directed by the board to not go to that rollback rate and keep the tax rate down, because we would have been increasing our millage, and you could have said that's not a tax increase legally, although you would be increasing the millage rate. So we kept the tax rate the same and rolled that down. We've done a calculation. If we had done the rollback rate throughout the whole downturn, our general fund millage rate would be over 4 mills right now, and we're at 3.3. So we're well below what that rollback rate would have been. So we are holding to those current rates.
And Commissioner, for myself, I mean, just as a starting point for that, I'd probably begin with what the ad valorem taxes were in the 2007-2008 fiscal year, basically when they're at their highest rate. And so that would not include inflation, but I think that would probably be a benchmark right, where the conversation could begin.
You'd base that not on property values, not on a millage rate, but on actual dollars collected?
Correct. I mean, just one way of.
Yeah, and that's what I'm just trying to, you know, when we ever get.
And we're still about $10 million below where we were in 2006, 2007. And Commissioner Solari brings up a good point. There is no change. There's no inflation adjustment in that rollback calculation. So what you pick up is you pick up the new construction, but you need that money to provide roads and police officers and firefighters and parks for those new folks. So if you take the rollback, it's a good measure, but I think it came into play in 1992. If you're at the rollback over and over again, the theory would be you're providing to that same residence, that same person, the services with zero increase from 1992. So it completely ignores inflation, and the things we buy do get impacted by inflation.
And that $10 million figure that you threw out was $10 million to the general fund or total? Total overall budget?
Yeah, we're at about 103, 104 million at the peak there, and we're 94 million change now.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just on that, I think where you really need to be careful with rollback is in like emergency services, because it's so expensive when you bring a new station online that you have to have a significant increase in the millage rate. And then if you've gone rollback and all of a sudden now you've got a new $2 million hit because of a new station and you have to do a 15% increase in the millage rate, you know, I'd rather not go to rollback and kind of keep it more level and you know, build into it than having to do a big jump like that. So just
we had that problem when we opened the jail.
Right, yeah, because you know, a lot of stuff in the general fund is incremental increases, but with the emergency services, adding a new station is expensive. It's a lot of gear, a lot of manpower, all added at once, and it's a big jump. So,
Mr.
Stuart, it's about a $4.5 million hit because the station's $2 million, the manpower's $2 million, and then
Oh, the
$500,000
capital equipment for it, yep.
if we're buying new or transferring in used.
So the next slide shows just our general fund rate compared to our surrounding and comparable counties. So if you look, there's us in green, the 3.36 mils, and so on the further left side, you've got all our surrounding counties like St. Lucie, Osceola, Martin, and Brevard, and then further right, you have those that are similar population to us. Hernando, Charlotte, Santa Rosa, Citrus, and St. John's. So we are below all of those and the second lowest out of 67 counties in the state of Florida. And our general fund is largely impacted by state mandates, funding for the constitutional officers and state agencies. Constitutional officers are about 63% of our general fund millage, or our general fund expenditures. We also have to fund various state agencies such as the court system, medical examiner, state health department, and various facilities for those agencies.
Mr. Chairman, can we go back one slide, Jason?
Sure.
On that one, if you take Martin County and they have the separate children's services taxing district, that's over and above their general fund millage because it's a line item. So the disparity is even greater.
Yes, that's correct. St. Lucie and Martin County both have separate standalone children's services organizations. Mm-hmm. When we established ours here, it was determined not to do that, but right. Have it under the county, and we've got that up to eighth of a mil. And so, yes, St. Lucie and Martin County both have, I think there are about a dozen of those in the state, but both St. Lucie and Martin have their own standalone children's services agency, and they levy a millage. I'm not sure what that is offhand.
Obviously, it bumps up their number higher than.
Right.
That's
correct.
correct.
It would be stacked on top of
right.
the general fund.
Right.
Yes. So next is what is the impact on a typical house for these tax rates? And this is where I'm always jealous of like the city folks or the school board folks, because they have one rate and it's pretty simple. But if you ask me what your taxes are, what your county taxes are, it says, well, first of all, where do you live? So it's different depending on where you live. But basically, if you live in Indian River Shores, you pay only those county-wide rates. So you see here that for a $200,000 home with a $50,000 homestead exemption, you get $150,000 taxable value. Their tax bill would be going down from $553 to $551, about $2.58. If you include all of the other cities, so if someone's in Vero, Sebastian, Orchid, or Fellsmere, they also pay the emergency services district due to the addition of the station that's going up. So it brings the total up to about $4.30 a year. And then everyone else in the unincorporated area also pays the MSTU, so they go up that same $4.30 because there's no change in the MSTU. This is assuming no change. We have done two additional scenarios this year. One is the homestead exemption limits your increase in taxable value to no more than the CPI rate or 3%, whichever is less. So this year it's 0.7%. So we applied that to the value of the home. It went from $200,000 to $201,000. Long story short, instead of the $4.30 increase in the unincorporated area, you're looking at about a $14 increase. To go further, the total tax roll growth with a change in value countywide was about 4.6%. That would result in a $69 increase for those in the unincorporated area.
Thank you for doing that, Jason. I think that gives a more clear, transparent picture what most homeowners can expect.
Does account for those increases in the taxable value as well. So that sums up my overall summary. If you have any questions, we're good, or we can roll into the individual budgets.
Move on.
All right. So up first is the general fund budget, and if you turn to page 29 in your book, that's where our general fund budget starts. And our total general fund budget is $81,182,145, a decrease of about $223,000 or 0.3%. As we discussed, the constitutional officers make up about about 63% of the budget. Their increases are about $2.2 million in the general fund. Our ad valorem tax roll increase was 6.2%. That gives us about $2.8 million in additional dollars at the current millage rate. When you add on those state mandates, it's about 73%, almost 74% is outside of the county departments that we have direct control over. So the millage rate, no change in the millage rate. Our health insurance employer contributions are up about $900,000 here, inclusive of the constitutional officers and the county departments. We have a $200,000 increase in the children's services funding. Next, we just have a little history of our general fund millage. Shows that we were decreasing over there in 2004 during the good times, trying to get to that rollback rate. And then since then, we've been pretty well flat. And then we just have another breakdown of the general fund budget. So next, we've got the departmental budgets. First, we have Board of County Commissioners. The proposed budget is $1,009,240, a decrease of 0.9%. Next is County Attorney, $763,577, an increase of 1%. GIS Transfer, $41,594, an increase of 9%, and that pays for our GIS department is allocated to all of the different county funds. Communications Emergency Services, $485,717, a decrease of about 4.9%. We've had a decrease in our software costs there, which accounts for that. Main Library, $2,206,203, a decrease of 0.3%. North County Library, $1,028,758, down 2.5%. Brackett Library, $279,142, up 4.1%. Soil and Water Conservation, $42,055, down 5.9%. Law Library, $77,062, up 2.4%. County Administrator's Office, $444,611, down 9.6%. General Services, $130,000.
On the administrators, that being the difference between your pay and the former administrator's pay?
Due to the turnover, yes. General Services.
We should have gotten rid of that guy earlier.
I've been saying that for years. I didn't mean that. I'm kidding. Yeah. If Joe's watching, you know, I do appreciate all of those years of mentoring. General Services budget, $130,253, up 1.9%. Human Resources, $424,016, up 2.8%. There we are instituting a new software program for applicant tracking to get us online. So right now, if you go and someone applies, they've got to fill out the application by hand and all that stuff. This will be able to do it online, and there's a tracking program, and allow those folks to be more efficient at the onboarding process and devote their time to more important things in HR as well. Planning and Development, 0. That's a decrease. Those are the funds that we add from time to time for doing like the PACE cleanups, paying the solid waste fees. We do those mid-year sometimes, so it's going down from 6,000 to 0. Veteran Services, $260,756, a 3% increase.
Jason, on the libraries,
Yes.
not for this budget we're working with, but as we go through the year, if we could start looking at ways to maybe go back and start expanding their hours again. I know in the recession we really cut the hours back, but I think those are such great resources that as we are recovering here, that we could look at expanding those again and making them more accessible for the public.
Okay. Yes, we did cut back some hours during the downturn, and we had some limited hours there in some cases, particularly at Brackett. And our task then was we opened Brackett Library, which was a 30,000 square foot library, and added staffing for that. And what we had to do was not increase the library budgets overall. So we added a 30,000 square foot facility. We were able to do that through tightening everything up we could, and also the partnership with the college was very important because they pay for a lot of the maintenance costs, but that is something that we can keep in mind going forward.
Yep.
Next is emergency management, $424,447, down 18.3%. The key driver there is mid-year grants that we've gotten this year are the main reason for the $95,000 decrease. Parks Department, $2,204,659, up 0.4%. This is an area where we are doing some roofing and some lighting projects. We're looking at LED lighting in the buildings and the parking lot there. So we've got that. Should help reduce our operating costs there going forward as well. Human Services, $285,083, up 1%. Ag Extension, $151,370, up 4.4%. Purchasing, $160,065, up 2.8%. Facilities Management, $3,565,767, up 3%. This is where we do have some AC units proposed for next year, and we will be utilizing high efficiency units going forward. And also we've been installing numerous AC systems in the last year and controllers, and we've already seen some savings. For instance, at the main library, we replaced the controller system last year, and so far through 9 months, the consumption's down about 18.5%, and it saved us $28,000 on the electric bill alone there. And we do have additional units that need to be replaced there, so that bill should go down more. And that's October through June, so those summer months, our savings should be even bigger. And they are on City Electric, I will add, so that's low-hanging fruit for saving electric dollars.
Yeah. Jason, also on the AC replacement, does that include anything for the health department?
We have a health department project on the boards there as well.
Okay. And if some of those other things pan out, that could help reduce some of that cost.
Next, we have Office of Management and Budget, $307,038, down $59,000 or 16%. Once again, that's turnover there causing the decrease, and we had some funding for an overlap there as well.
Jason, that's just not Mike's salary, that's a lot less pencils.
Yeah, that's a lot of pencils. So we did have funding in the current year for an overlap with Mike and I, so that's some of the decrease there, and then there is salary difference in the turnover. Next is the FPL grant.
Thanks for your service.
That is $117,937, an increase of 13.8%. Of a portion of a new position that's jointly funded by this grant and our 911 dollars. That's going to help improve our emergency management response to even from the level that it is today. We've done a great job out there with the accreditation. This provides us some longevity and planning into the future.
Jason, will we need to track a second FP&L grant, the $200,000 for the Okeechobee side, so we actually would have FP&L grant 1 and grant 2, and one's non-reoccurring?
Right. One is not reoccurring. This one is the one for the planning for the power plant down in St. Lucie. We will have a tracking for that. That will impact the emergency services district, since it was to pay for some training and equipment needs for fire rescue to respond to the new Okeechobee power plant there. So yes, we will have a new one of those. EM base grant, $84,233, down 27%, and that's due to some additional dollars that were in the current year. This is the state grant to help us with our emergency management planning as well. Computer services transfer, $228,366. That's down 16% due to a change in allocation regarding the new employees and the services provided there. Insurance premiums, $283,218. This is where we charge all of the countywide property and casualty and liability insurance too. No change there. Animal control, $546,155, up 2.3%. Mailroom, $321,033, up 3.8%. So that is it for the BCC departments in the general fund.
Mr. Chairman?
Sir.
I see that Curtis Paulison, Ray DeCizio, Teresa Fletcher, and Pat Guy are here from the Veterans Council. They've been here since this morning, and I wanted to know if they wanted to say anything regarding their budget request.
Yes, I would.
Thank you, sir.
Name and address for the record, please.
This is a
Yeah,
group
we got
that
red,
does
white,
a
and
lot
blue
with
here.
very little.
Curtis Paulson, Vice President, Veterans Council. I also run the Transportation Department. First of all, I want to thank every one of you for your participation in our golf tournament. Because of you and everybody else in the community, it was hugely successful. So we're going to be able to help a lot of vets with it, but thank you. Before I thank you all for our grant, I'd like to introduce you to some people. This is our driver, Ray Justicia. I thought it's important to bring these people out. This is my director, Patricia Geyer. And this is our specialty coordinator, Teresa Fletcher. She's behind the scenes. A lot of people don't know who she is. Answer the phone. This is who you're going to get. These people do an incredible job. I oversee it. These guys here run it. So, and lastly, I'd like to thank you all. We appreciate it, and the money will be well spent, and it definitely needs to be it's for our continued growth, and we have a new employee that's coming on also. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for all you do for the veterans and the
Thank
county.
you for your service.
Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak on one of the general fund items which Mr. Brown went over? Anybody else want to speak on one of the general fund items? If not, we'll move to the municipal service taxing unit.
All right, the MSTU budget. As I mentioned before, this is for all those in the unincorporated area, the city for those outside the city. MSTU fund budget is $30,395,064, up 13.8%. No change in the millage rate here either. So the ad valorem tax roll increase was 6.3% in this area, and that gave us a little over $500,000 in additional revenue. Our transfers out, which are a large portion of the MSTU fund budget, are up 2.7, and those are primarily to fund the law enforcement function of the sheriff's office, as well as our road maintenance program in the transportation fund. Intergenerational facility, that should be, we have the ribbon cutting scheduled for that for next month, and that facility should be a great addition to our community. Total costs are about $400,000 to operate that. We are anticipating, we are budgeting about $140,000 in revenue, so we anticipate that that should cover a portion of its expenditures. Shooting range, the skeet and trap, an increase of $307,000, and we are budgeting an increase in revenues to cover that increase. Besides property taxes, the largest revenue source in the MSU budget is franchise fees. That's up about 4.4%, or a little under $400,000. We have continued funding for the FMPA litigation issues for about $69,000 in there. Once again, our new positions are for the IG building, shooting range. Then we have the environmental lands position, and an increase from part-time to full-time in code enforcement of an assistant. And what that will do is, right now we only have a part-time person to cover the front desk, so our code enforcement officers are having to cover those hours for half of the day. What this will do is will allow us to have that desk covered by a staff assistant full-time, and we'll free up those folks in code enforcement to go out and do what they need to do. That will help with the vacation rentals and the other code enforcement issues out there.
Jason, one question on the franchise fees. With the franchise fee of what we call the outside customers, with FP&L and outside the Vero Beach Electric area, when that agreement expires, how soon in advance do we need to start negotiating a new franchise fee? Because I believe FP&L's is about 0.2 of a point lower than the other utility type providers, you know, the other ones that use our right of way for services. So is that a year-long process, or 6 months, or? I mean, it's been in effect for 30 years, so we haven't touched it in a while.
That could take some time, and I think it's 2017 when the one expires with the city of Vero. The FPL one is much longer. I think it was 2006 97 that we renewed that, and it was a 30-year agreement, so we're many years away from that, but the City of Vero one, the time is coming on that.
Okay.
MSTU millage history, you can see here at the beginning, back there in 2004, 2005, 2006, we were decreasing the millage rate as the tax roll was going up. When the tax roll went down, we held the line on the millage rate to keep that burden off the taxpayers. So the departmental expenses, first is the line item for the FMPA litigation, $69,000, down $3,000 from the current year. That is a funding in case we need those dollars. North County Aquatic Center, $812,645, down 3.4%. We had some equipment that was replaced in the current year, so we're seeing the decrease there. Gifford Aquatic Center, $393,366, up 5%. Recreation Department, $889,016, down 5.5% or $51,000. A large reason for the decrease there is some of those Recreation Department expenditures we are identifying with the IG building. So like the basketball program that we used to run out of the schools and the fairgrounds building, those will be housed in the IG, so some of those have been moved over into that IG budget, which is next at $399,837, up about $250,000. We had included $150,000 in the current year for partial year operations, so we're going up $250,000 for next year. Ocean Rescue, our Ocean Rescue lifeguards, $812,157, up 1.5%. Shooting range, $726,868, up 73.5%. That is because of the staffing of the new Sporting Clays ski and trap course. That is offset by revenue increase of the same amount, so that is no impact on the ad valorem tax.
When is the Sporting Clays going to be open again?
We think it will be August, September will be when we should be in there. And also going forward, we've got the Hunter Safety and Education Building that will be coming online next year as well. And we did a budget amendment just last week to begin to provide the staffing for that for the remainder of the year for 1 month or so in the current fiscal year. Community development, $223,744, up 4.6%. County planning, $912,543, up 55%. We have added a planning tech here to deal with the increased workload. We've got more development coming forward, and so that we can stay on top of that, and be responsive to that, we're adding a position there. Code enforcement, $459,106, up 4.4%. That is the change from part-time to full-time in code enforcement. Let me back up on the county planning. We're actually going from, it's an increase of a half a position. We had a position that was being split between building and planning. So what we've done is added a position in planning and moved the other position all the way over to building. So between the two, it's one new position. It's a half a position here, half a position in building.
Are we doing any more in-house inspections versus subbing out to firms?
On the building department,
Yeah.
We have continued to struggle finding people to fill our building inspector positions. If anybody's out there wondering, hey, what should I be when I grow up? Building inspector could be a good thing for you, because with all of the licensure and all those requirements, there are few people that meet the needs for it, and there's so many opportunities with building out there, it's hard for us to compete, and this is something all of the building departments are facing, so we have had to supplement with the providers, and I'll say that even the providers are having a hard time. My understanding is at least one of the providers, the person that they hire lives in Ocala and commutes here to be our outside provider, so there is definitely a talent shortage in that area, and we continue to do everything we can to fill those positions.
During the downturn, a number of trade workers left the state, and there's been a void, and that void has not been refilled yet. You may see some of that as the economy continues to rebound. You may see a resurgence in that area, more of an influx into Florida. But, you know, with the downturn and the significance of the downturn, you did have kind of a mass exodus at one point from the construction.
Do we have any idea
industry.
how much more it cost, how much revenue we're losing in the enterprise fund of the building department whenever we have to use a subcontractor versus an in-house person? Do we have any dollar figures on that?
Our costs, I think, we have different providers at different rates. I think one is at $65 an hour we're paying. The other maybe it's 70, 71. So it is more costly to get those folks. And we're looking at seeing what we can do as far as making adjustments with our HR department to see what we can do to recruit those folks.
If they're so hard to find, is there any opportunity to train from within?
That is something we've considered. One of the things, and we've done this in other areas where we bring in a trainee while they can get their license. And we could do that going forward. One of the concerns is they're not allowed to go out on their own, so you end up spending, they're not able to assist us right away. But
Right.
we're looking at those things, and you're basically, they're a tag along and not able to add to the effort at
You
first.
lose productivity in the short run during that training phase. But the long-term gain is obviously then you would have another fully trained inspector. So finding folks with the licensure requirements is the challenge.
Yeah.
And I know that's something.
And right now, they can make so much more in the private sector, probably.
And that's the hard part. If you train somebody up, do they end up leaving you 3 months after they get their
Yeah.
certification?
Need a delayed carrot compensation.
Right. And we are looking into that, and we think it's an opportunity we can work with the state college and help with some training opportunities there. So
So, Jason, with that increased cost, though, are you still comfortable going with that 5% permit fee reduction?
I think we're good there. We do have some reserves that we plan to come forward with various other improvements going forward, some additional automation in the department that will use some of our existing dollars, but we think we're good with moving forward with the slight rate decrease right now.
And Jason, also, it takes, just, if someone's a electrician or a plumber, an AC person, it may take you a year to go through the state qualifying, mentoring, testing process to become a licensed inspector, and that's for each trade. So if you want somebody cross-trained, it could take 3 years to move them through the training process.
Right, and that's with the volatility in building. It's always, it seems like we're chasing that. It's either building's very strong or it's very weak, and so in the downturns you have no problem attracting talent, but we don't need it then. So the struggle is always to keep up when the activity picks up, because we definitely don't want to be a logjam there. And we are putting in place some of those technology improvements, like we're expanding the CD Plus program out to fire prevention and public works, so that they can do, like the building department has the capability currently, they can be out there on their iPad and check off on a permit when they're there, rather than having to come back into the office. So if they're if an inspection's done at 9:30 in the morning, they can be right there on site, check it off. The builder knows that it's been done because they're all online and able to get that information. So it's providing that responsiveness. And as you know, you can't start the next step on the construction project till you've got this permit signed off on. So we hope that'll increase our responsiveness to those folks as well. Next is our parks conservation lands. This is $144,717, up $43,000 or 43%, and this is where we're adding the conservation tech position that will help manage those lands and help shepherd through some of those improvements that we have planned. Next is the road and bridges, and what that is this is where we fund the demolitions of unsafe structures during the year. So we start out at 0, and as we have them, that's why we're decreasing from 49,000 to 0. Telecommunications, $130,257, up 10.6%. Tax collector, $80,000, no change from the current year. So that is it for the MSTU fund departments.
Jason, just a summary of that, I'd like to note that, so people catch it, that of that 11% increase, about 90% of it is the intergenerational facility, the increased shooting clays up in the North County shooting range, and starting to do something with our conservation lands. So this is not a 10%, 11% increase simply to maintain what we have. This is an 11% increase, which is going to substantially increase the available of parks and recreations for the citizens of Indian River County and the tourists that'll come here. So I think that's a phenomenal job all in all.
All right, thank you. That's correct. That without that, our increase would be much smaller.
And we'll put in a plug at this point. Obviously, the IG facility has a number of meeting rooms for communities, civic groups, and the like, and facilities for parties, et cetera. So that's something we fully expect to
And the shooting
capitalize
range
on.
is going to probably draw in a lot more in the way of tournaments to help in tourism development. And I think over time, the increased accessibility of the conservation lands is going to be a significant improvement for both the citizens and tourists that come to the county. So it's a wonderful path you've put us on.
And a lot of these are those quality of life things. And for instance, the IG building, that we initially planned to build that in about 2004. Well, the downturn came, and we didn't build that for cost reasons to keep the burden off the taxpayer. But now we've got the opportunity to kind of do those quality of life recreation improvements.
So I think this is probably a good time to ask if there's anybody in the audience who'd like to speak on one of the items that Mr. Brown has just gone over dealing with the municipal service taxing unit. Appears that there's no one in the audience for that, so we'd like to continue, Mr. Brown.
All right, thank you. Transportation fund, which is on page 34 of your packet. The transportation fund itself does not levy a millage. However, it is supported substantially by the general fund and MSTU. Over 2/3 of its budget comes from transfers from those funds, so it's included as a taxing fund. Total budget is $14,944,450, up 3.4%. Here is a place where we are beefing up our replacement capital. Like all areas during the downturn, we had decreased those, so we're at $409,000 in capital for next year, which is up $113,000 from last year. We've got 2 new positions here. One is a staff assistant to help with road design projects, and an engineer being added in the gas tax fund, and the other is a signal cable locator for our traffic engineering department. We're required to turn those around in, I think, 48 or 72 hours. With increased activity out there, we're having a hard time keeping up, so we're recommending that signal cable locator.
What kind of capital?
Capital, the bulk of it is road and bridge equipment. We've got some various vehicles in engineering as well. Just several crew cab pickups, dump truck, a couple of extended cab trucks.
So no yellow or basically?
Not yellow right now. We do have some yellow equipment in the current year. We did a lot of catch up, and if you'll recall, we did kind of a bulk catch up that was approved last year of about $900,000, and we caught up a lot of our yellow equipment there.
Okay.
Jason, one question on the vehicle purchase. We purchased under the state contract for the vehicle purchases. Excuse me. If we order it, that basically, they post the price of the state vehicle for let's say for a Ford F-250 or a Chevy, whatever the comparable is. If it comes in with something extra in it, do we still pay the state amount? And this question is, I had a constituent contact me and said that they saw a new vehicle that had leather interior in it, and I said, I don't think that's a normal state contract item. It could be spec based on the vehicle usage for some potential reason, but I said I would bring that question up today.
Those state contracts are detailed, so if they start out with a base model, and then each of the options, there's a price that will frequently be less than the list price for that. So if something's an add-on for $400, it might be $300 on state contract, but there is an add-on for those if that's a county vehicle.
If we order it as, let's just say, straight basic, and they deliver it, and it happens to have something extra on it, because we wouldn't put, a lot of frills on these vehicles.
It'd be news to me if we approved the leather seats in a county vehicle. So if it comes in with something that we didn't ask for, we wouldn't be paying for that.
Right, okay, that was my understanding as well. Thank you.
And we would not be ordering vehicles with
Oh, I know.
seats. The departmental budgets in Transportation Fund, Road and Bridge, the largest one, $7,422,388, up $46,000 or 0.6%. And that increase is largely due to the increase in capital replacement. Public Works, $278,137, down 5.8% due primarily to turnover. County Engineering, $2,089,525, up $62,000 or 3.1%, and the addition of the staff assistants, primary reason for the increase there. Traffic Engineering, $2,541,856, down $42,000 or 1.7%. There was some signal equipment that was purchased last year that is not in next year's budget, so that's the reason for that decrease. Stormwater, $634,741, up 4.3%. That's all of the transportation fund departments.
Anybody in the public wish to comment on the transportation fund? Apparently no one.
Yep,
Jason?
Mr. Chairman.
No,
Oh,
he's-
I'm sorry.
He's leaving.
He's leaving, okay.
Mr. Brown?
All right, next up, we have the Emergency Services District, which is on page 35 of your packet. The total district budget is $34,331,941, a decrease of $2.3 million or 6.4%. First question is, why are we going down? That's due to some construction funding for stations 13 and the planned station 14 in the current year. So those items aren't rolling into next year, so that's the reason for they will be rolled.
When can we expect 14 to come online, or 15?
15, the one at North County
Yeah.
Pool, we are planning for October. So we think it's all a matter of how quickly we can get the modular
Okay.
moved up there and all the utilities connected, and that can take some time. We're shooting for October right now.
Super, thanks.
So that station has an ongoing cost of about $1.3 million per year. As you'll recall, we have ordered the apparatus for that station now so that we can get it on the way. And when we did that, kind of inspired by what the board did last year, right at the workshops, we went ahead and ordered the apparatus that was budgeted for this year in July. So with that thinking in mind, we advanced those the ambulances and the Quint, as well as the engine and also a brush truck, so we can order those now and get them on their way here to kind of speed up our 5-year capital plan, replacement plan. Our tax roll change here was up 6.2%, which provided about $1.5 million in additional revenues. Our total capital equipment here is about $1.5 million. That includes 2 med units, the pumper, as well as various other equipment being replaced, 12 radios to prepare for the next phase of the 800 megahertz system. The beginning of a 3-year replacement plan for our stretchers, so we're replacing 4 this year, plan to do 4 the following year and 4 the year after that, and we would be caught up at that point. In addition to this, to the dollars here, we've got a little over $1 million in sales tax to purchase a Quint and a brush truck to continue that. So this is another, I'll do a shameless plug here for our optional sales tax. This just shows one of the important things that we're able to do with our sales tax, which, as you know, is on the ballot on the referendum in November, and we're able to fund these types of things without burdening the property taxes as much. So that's a key thing here.
Just light on.
That next we have the millage history there. So you'll see here that during the good times, of course, back in 2004, 2005, 2006, we were lowering those millage rates in chasing that rollback rate. We got there sometimes other years.
Jason,
Jason,
is
yeah.
your light on?
Oh, no, it's not. Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. So we decreased those during the good times. During the downturn, per board direction, we did not increase the millage rate. Through some cost-saving measures, we were able to even open Station 12 back there in 2009 without a millage rate increase. So you'll see here, we have started increasing the millage rate, but the reasons for those were when we added the 2000 or when we added Station 13 this year, we had a millage rate increase. And we're proposing a 2% slight rate increase this year to fund operations at Station 15.
Jason? Jason?
Yes.
Station 15 is fully funded as it stands as a ALS with the budget. In the project, are we anticipating the likelihood that we could add a box to that in the future as far as the accommodations?
In the future, that may be something that's necessary. What we have funded right now is only the ALS engine.
Correct.
The other thing that we will need to do going forward is find the permanent home for that, because the in the North County Park is a short-term solution, because we wanted to get something there now. So it's going to take some time to find that right location, get that location, build a station. So as we move forward, that will be one of the things that we're looking at is finding that location for a permanent station, and at some point in the future there, we would be able to add an ambulance there. The current fund budget, or the 16-17 budget, doesn't have funding for that, but going forward, that's something that we can plan on into the future.
Thank you.
Jason, well, I'll do it at the end of this one. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that is it for me. So this is just the detail that shows the breakdown between the salaries, benefits, operating, and capital. So with that, if you have any other questions.
Yes, under salaries and benefits, this is a contract year. We have an expiration during this next budget cycle. And I know because of the union articles of negotiation, what I'd like to say or ask, I can't straight out, so I'll try to ask the way Dylan said I could ask. What provisions have we made to address any requested increases that have been proposed so far?
So this is where you see Dylan leaning
Right.
forward here. So we have to be very careful. We don't want to run into an
Right.
unfair bargaining situation. What we do typically in a year where we do not have a contract yet, which the typical thing is frequently we have 3-year agreements, so every third year at least we're in this situation. We make an allowance in the budget for salary increases that we think we can provide. However, those amounts are not determined yet because we still have to go through the collective bargaining process, and we have made allocations for made an allowance for a raise that we have also tried to be consistent across our bargaining units. Typically in the past, that we've made that allowance across the organization for salary increases for those folks.
Okay. And then we would have to we'd ratify the contract, do a mid-year budget adjustment to fund.
What we do is, once we have a contract with either of our bargaining units, then we would typically do, like you're saying, we would do a budget amendment to fund those dollars, put those dollars into the salary and benefits accounts as needed.
Okay. And boy, this is hard when you want to ask and you can't, but I guess,
Well, Jason's also always available for questions at a later time, too.
Right.
So all questions
Yeah.
don't have to be asked right now.
right. But it will be a process we're going through that will clearly have significant budgetary impacts at some point.
The raises for our bargaining units, they have an impact on the tax. We've only had, I think, one session with the IAFF. They presented their proposal, and we've got another one scheduled later this month where we'll be moving through that process. So we don't know what those dollar amounts are, but we have made an allowance for salary increases for them like we have for the other bargaining units.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Is that it, Jason?
And I think I stayed out of trouble with Dylan.
I
so.
will,
Did I stay out of trouble?
Dylan, you can sit back now.
I'll ask if
Yeah,
there's
the red
anybody,
button.
These were all budget-related questions.
I'll ask if there's anybody from the public who'd like to speak on the Emergency Services District. Good morning, name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, John O'Connor, President, International Association of Firefighters, Local 2201. I know it wasn't in the budget, I looked over some of the things, but I'm aware that Station 11, we're still having some problems with the HVAC system. Specifically, the members are having to wipe the mold and the mildew off the walls on a pretty regular basis. I don't know if we could maybe either repair that system or replace it, so we don't have to do that. If we could get that added, that'd be wonderful. Under the discussions of stations 14 and 15, 15, that's great. I think that we definitely need an ALS engine there, but we also need a med unit, and we potentially need station 14. I've had multiple conversations with staff and members of the board over the years, and just want to play something for you.
Battalion 1 and Battalion 2 information. I have depleted everyone in the county on EMS at this time.
Battalion 1, I copy. Battalion 2, I copy.
0936.
So that usually happens pretty much once or twice a week, on depending on whatever it is. I've got, there's only one recording. I can send you multiple recordings if you want. But we need a med unit at station 15 immediately, and we need to consider station 14 or some type of Alpha Bravo unit at some of these existing stations. So we need them now. This is not a want, this is a need for sure. And this might fall under the sheriff's budget discussion, but considering what's happening with all the things that are going on across the country, we need to have some active shooter training. We need to be training with Vero Beach Police Department. We need to be training with our with the sheriff's office and all the other law enforcement agencies in the county to make sure that we're prepared in case something happens in the county. So, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. O'Connor. I clearly agree with the I'm a frequent monitor as well, and that happens well too often. All units are out. And the Bravo unit concept for Sector 38, with that being 15% of the demand of the entire system, I think could provide great relief and keep more units in their home response area versus being first available response when they get released from the hospital. So I think that would be a great solution.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else on emergency services? Jason, non-departmental?
Non-departmental. Next we have state. First we have state agencies. So we'll start New Horizons, $287,172. These are on pages 29. Up 2%, same as the request. State Health Department, $602,829, up 3%. Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, $61,631, up 1.7%. Department of Juvenile Justice, $347,000. That is down $137,229, or 28.3%. That is thanks to the bill that was passed this year to resolve our long-standing problem between the State Department of Juvenile Justice overbilling the counties for this expenditure, and we were thankful to get that done.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may there, I think Kate Cotner in our attorney's office deserves some credit. She worked real hard on that as our legislative priority. And also just a shout out to Senator Jack Latvala and his son, Representative Chris Latvala, who sponsored the various bills and worked hard to get all the counties together to agree to drop their lawsuits to bring this forward. And we're seeing the benefits of that right now. So I think a lot of people worked hard on that, but it turned out to be some really good legislation.
Yes, I would echo those comments.
One question on the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, the 61,630. I know that's the population adjustment, how we're billed. But is the city's Art Village project falling under our umbrella of our fee payment, or are they paying a fee for service to the Regional Planning Council separate from our umbrella agreement?
My understanding is that the involvement that the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council had in that was paid for by the Cultural Council with private dollars.
Okay.
And
I thought he was going to suggest we withdraw.
Oh, well, that's a motion.
he might get a second on that.
Fortunately, Chairman can't make any motion, so I'll have to pass on that one. Go on, Mr. Brown.
Okay, so So we save some money there, and how long does it take us to spend that money we save? This is the next line item. Medicaid, $1,142,135. Our costs are going up 12.4% per the state formula. That is the amount that the state sends us each year. This was based on legislation from years ago where we were having a problem with Medicaid and billing the counties. So we are locked into that formula, 12.4% increase. Environmental Control Board, $7,033, no change. Circuit Court expenses, $422,829, up $33,720 or 8.7%. I will add that that's about $9,000 less than the court administration had requested. This also is an area where last year we were able to fund the court technology needs from the court technology funds that the state gave us, the $2 that we charged. We have run out of that money, and so now that is an $80,000 hit to the general fund. So the court did request about $9,000 more than that. So if that were funded, it'd be an $89,000 hit. So that was the reason, I think you'll recall, in the legislative priorities we had that request for an increase in the fees, which you have been reluctant on that, but they just point out that that's the reason there. We're also locked in with a 1.5% increase. We have to increase the funding for the court system by 1.5% year after year, which is on our legislative priorities, which I think is a horrible idea on anything that ties your hands to continuous cost increases is not good budgeting. So I'll get off my soapbox now. Next is guardian ad litem, $85,411, down 7.1%. Next is the victims assistance program, $67,605, up 1.2%. State attorney, $169,478, down 6.6%. Public defender, $82,181, down 4.4%. Those are all funded as requested. Guardian ad litem, victims assistance, state attorney, public defender. Medical examiner, $370,991, up $46,792 or 14.4%. This is also less than was requested by the medical examiner. The medical examiner is proposing the addition of an assistant medical examiner position. Right now you've got the medical examiner and one assistant. They anticipate some retirements or turnover here in the future. So, and due to the increased workload, they have requested an additional assistant medical examiner position. What we are recommending is funding that position halfway through the year. I think their total increase request was about 28%. In order to mitigate that increase, we're recommending funding that halfway through the year, which our understanding is that it would take some time to recruit and fill that position anyway. So we're recommending that halfway through the year. State forestry, $13,822, no change from the current year. That's what we pay forestry based on our acreage. So that is it for the state agencies.
Anyone care to speak on any of the state agency items? Sir, come on up to the podium. Sir?
Hi, I'm Dr. Middleman. I'm the medical examiner, and I want to express my appreciation to all of you for this funding. It's clearly overdue. It's very difficult for us to function just as two people. I would also ask, if possible, that we could move this till January, which would be an additional $18,000, and that would give us relief sooner. So I'm posing that question instead of waiting till April, which is a 6-month interval. So we'd rather do it in January if it's possible. If it can't be done, we understand, but we'd appreciate it if we could start in January.
Jason?
And Doctor, you said that'd be an additional 18,000?
Yes.
For the January through April?
Yes.
This is one of those expenses we share. The medical examiner serves 4 counties: St. Lucie, Martin, Okeechobee, and us. And so that would be our portion of the expense. I think we're about 24% of the total budget.
I appreciate the request, but I don't, that's a pretty good jump for 1 year. And I appreciate the, having to do less with more, or vice versa. But I'm not ready for an additional 18,000 right now.
I'm with Commissioner Davis.
Okay, well, I appreciate the consideration, and I thank you very much for letting us move ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak on the state agencies? Come on up. And there are 2 podiums, so if you want to, someone get to each one of the podiums, that'd be fine.
Good morning. My name is Annette Goslin. I represent New Horizons. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and on behalf of New Horizons, I would like to truly express our appreciation to the County Commission and Indian River County for your continued support of us and what we do in your community. And if you have any questions for us, please feel free to let me know. I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak? Good morning. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Miranda Hawker. I'm the administrator for the Health Department. I did want to thank all of you for your support in this last year for the initiatives that we've done together through our efforts between the county and the state. As you know, the Health Department is an effort through Florida Statute 154 of the county and the state. We've made tremendous strides this year, both on our community health improvement, most lately with our response to Zika, and many of you have participated with that, including Jason. And I really did want to speak to the strength of our public health system here locally and how proud I am of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And Miranda, are you okay with your funding level for the Zika? I mean, at this point in time, I know it's hard to.
Yes, at this point, and we've also been working with Kate, with mosquito control, with John King, as well as our contacts up at State ESF 8 for planning for health and medical for Zika.
Okay.
So we're waiting additional information on funding. I don't have any specifics on that at this point.
Okay, great. Thanks for everything you do, Miranda.
Anyone else on state agencies? Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Mr. Brown. Tom Janung, Trial Court Administrator, and I'd like to, on behalf of Chief Judge Metzger, express our gratitude for the support that the county gives the court system. I appreciate that there are some funding issues. In the past few years, the court system has gone to the legislature year after year requesting about $24 million statewide to assist the court system with technology. Because we fully appreciate the burden being foisted upon the counties is a very large burden. And each year we've been denied that request. This year we've had to, this year and this next year we'll be having to change over a lot of our technology in our courtrooms. And we were actually able to dip back into our state budget this year, which was able to free up some of our county dollars to give back as unobligated funds out of this year's budget. So we hope to be able to do the same thing next year, but there's no guarantee that opportunity would be available. So again, we express our gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Anyone else from the state agencies? Jason, that appears to be it.
All right. So next we have some of our other non-departmental Economic Development Division. This is the Chamber serves as our economic development arm for us. Funding there is $171,465, an increase of 4.9%, the same amount as requested. We also have Children's Services. As you're aware, we increased the funding level for this by $200,000. Children's Services has allocated the dollars and as approved by the Board of County Commissioners, those funds are included here, $1,051,965.
On those, in the job grants, et cetera, at what point do we go ahead and remove those when we allocate funds in the past?
So on the job grants, we have funded those out of our reserves so that we keep the impact off of the taxes. One of the reasons another reason that we maintain healthy reserves, and as those are paid, we do the allocation. So we have a reserve set aside for those, and at a certain point, if it becomes clear that a company is not going forward on those are freed up. But then we just budget those as they are earned, because sometimes what you'll have happen is and we encourage the companies to be optimistic in their projections. So we say, if you think you might hire 15 or 20 people, tell us 20, because if you tell us 15 and we only approve 15 and you bring 20, we can't give you the money for it. So we say, tell us the 20, and then if you bring the 15, we pay you for the 15.
Okay.
And so through the process, as those are earned, we do a budget amendment to fund those from out of the reserves.
And that's a 3-year?
That most of that, yeah, those are paid out over 3 years.
And just as an aside, I stopped by Tim Gerard's the other day at Gerard Equipment. He's got 80 employees right there. Absolutely. I mean, it's incredible. It really is.
And I think our jobs program is a model that, you know, we're not giving out dollars ahead of time. We're giving them out as they're earned. And it's the adjustments we made a few years ago to increase those amounts, because if you go back to 10 years ago, we didn't get but 1 or 2 applicants because the juice wasn't worth the squeeze probably. But with those changes that we made several years ago, we've experienced a lot of success there.
Good.
Jason, also, I think Stan and his department, they purged a little bit of the list of if somebody had applied but then had withdrawn or decided to go elsewhere, we had some things that were kind of hanging out there that weren't really pending liabilities. So I think the list is in a little bit better shape this year.
Yeah, and yeah, they've done a good job of that, and those are actually shown as a reserve, like a liability on our books at the end of the year. So so we get together with the finance department and adjust that number. And
we hope they all come forward when we get to fill all of them, but
yes,
we'll get what we can.
The media didn't give us a high grade on the economic development, and I see Helene is here. Could I ask Helene how
Well, why don't we wait until we finish this, and then we'll do it in the same order we've been doing it.
Next, we have the community redevelopment areas. So we have a new one this year. City of Vero approved their CRA for the downtown area. So instead of just Sebastian and Fellsmere, we have a new entry there. So Sebastian's, it's $160,138, up $269. Fellsmere CRA, $2,796, up $1,371. The Vero Beach CRA did not experience a gain in the taxable value, so there is no liability this year. And I should explain that what these are formula driven based on the community redevelopment areas. They take the taxable value of the base year, and then any new growth in the tax roll from that base year, the county pays back the taxes that we collected on that into the CRA. So there is no payment on Vero, but this was the first year that they were eligible to receive it.
And so that would have been for the tax year 2000, or the assessed values of 2015? January 1st?
As of January 1, 2016. So why they didn't go up, I don't know. But
oh, so they're actually using this year's, same figures we're using.
2015 was the base year, and then we're comparing 2016.
So it was flat. Okay. All right.
So that is it for those non-departmental.
And we'll go ahead and ask if there's anybody from the non-departmental items that want to come up and speak.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I wanted Helene to give us a little bit more of a upbeat account of the amount of jobs that have actually been created by the program, the granting process, because it did take a little bit of a hit on the media end. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. For the record, Helene Castletine, Economic Development Director with the Indian River County Chamber of Commerce, 1216 21st Street, Vero Beach. I don't have those figures with me, but as Jason explained, the Jobs Grant Program is a performance-based, and that's what we would prefer as well as you. And those are anticipated jobs. So sometimes things happen with the company. We had a recession not too long ago. That affected some of the job grant applicants as well in their forecasts. But I would say probably in the last 10 years, it's been close to about 800. If I can recall the spreadsheet that I put together and sent to you all. But those are real jobs for our local residents. And some of those are very well-paying jobs. They're full-time jobs with benefits, and that's what we go after. We go after target industries that pay better than the average wage for Indian River County and create full-time jobs with benefits for local residents. But I'm sorry I don't have that information with me, but it's substantial. Over the last 10 years, our job creation numbers have been significant.
And those jobs didn't disappear after the granting process had been extinguished?
No, sir. No, they did not. No, they did not. And I'd also like to add that a lot of those jobs were created by our local businesses expanding in our local community. Girard Equipment was a good example of that. But we also had Triton Submarines, we had Float-On, we had a number of other companies locally that expanded their operations and added jobs. So that's probably just as good, if not better, I would say, in expanding our local tax base.
With the option of leaving the county.
Right.
And that was avoided.
Right. We certainly would prefer them to stay here and grow here than go somewhere else, absolutely.
And Mr. Chairman, if I might just follow up, the media article Commissioner Flesch is referring to compared the total jobs in 2005 and then the number of jobs in 2015. And of course, 2005 was probably the peak of our economy. The real estate boom was going great guns. Graining hadn't been such a problem. And, that was probably our highest job total. And then we went through the entire recession, and now we are back almost at that peak level of jobs, and I think that's pretty good. To when you look at what's happened, as Mike said, a lot of the trade people left during the recession, haven't come back yet. We've gone, Wesley, maybe but it used to be what, like 37 something packing houses, and now you can count them on one hand almost.
In fact, what I noticed the other day that is. I'm going to go ahead and call it exciting, which is good news coming out of the bad. Like Girard Equipment, they bought a packing house, moved into it, and where I used to walk, bring my fruit in there and pack it and walk down, the conveyor belts and everything. It's just now it's air conditioned. They got people in there running, high tech machinery and equipment, producing valves that go to China. And another story is for another packing house in that same area is getting ready to be sold. And it's going to be where an existing business is going to expand and into a bigger facility. So I mean, it's the exact opposite, I would say, or exact same scenario, kind of like why we lost Reed Knight's Armament. Is it's businesses go sometimes where there's the least resistance, and we're seeing something good come out of the bad as far as the packing houses being utilized for different industrial uses.
So, we know agriculture has taken a hit and lost a lot of jobs as well. So I think the fact that our job numbers are back near our peak number shows we've really come back through that recession pretty good. And that, of course, whole point was lost in the article. But
well, if they had used 2007 as a baseline, we would have had a
we'd be
completely
way
different story. Thank you.
It'll be interesting to see how they report the budget, because in this budget, while the budget's gone up, I think the county is performing at levels equal to or better than 2007, 2008 fiscal year, doing a lot more. But the employees peaked then at 964 people, and on this budget year, it's 786. So I think we're doing substantially more with 178 fewer employees. So we'll see how that plays out in the press, which never seems to like to really give, present the good news. I mean, you shouldn't have got me started, Commissioner O'Brien. This county.
My apologies, Mr. Chairman.
I've been holding it in for months. The way the press will report every negative thing about this county, while passing up so much that's positive that it's almost unrealistic. I mean, sometimes I feel it's a contest. It's going to be the press, or is it going to be candidates running for office, where you just enter a twilight zone, where everything good that's happened suddenly disappears. So, okay, I'll try to get back and
Rod Selling would be
Is
proud
there
of
anybody
him.
else that would wish to speak?
I do have one question for Helene. Is there anything new that we can share publicly on Project Treadstone?
Not yet. We're waiting for the media announcement from Enterprise Florida. They're coordinating that, and I should say probably in the next couple of weeks we'll hear from that, yes.
More jobs, folks.
And
Yes.
will they do their announcement out of Enterprise Orlando, or will they do it?
That's what we're working on.
Okay.
That's what we're working on. So, yeah.
And obviously, we want to have a really big one of where they're leaving from.
Right,
with
right.
handout
right.
information of fly elite, come on down and
Yes, and bring their
take a look.
friends.
That's
Bring
right.
their friends, right.
Well, we could say today that there are more jobs coming than
Yes.
anticipated.
25 to be exact.
Thank you.
Very high-paying jobs, I might add.
Much higher than the average wage.
Yes, yes. So thank you, Commissioners. We appreciate your continued support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other non-departmental? Jason?
All right, thank you, Commissioner Solari. Nonprofit organizations, we have first the Mental Health Collaborative, the walk-in clinic, $22,500, an increase of $2,500. Harvest Food and Outreach, $10,000, an increase from $6,000. Both of those were less than the request. Mental Health requested $25,000. Harvest Food and Outreach requested $35,000. 211 Palm Beach and Treasure Coast, $10,000, no change. Veterans Council, which we discussed earlier, as it's included in our Veteran Services Office budget, $82,310, up $5,300 or 6.9%. Keep It In River Beautiful, $40,539, no change from the current year. We did have 3 other agencies that requested funding that were not that no funding is recommended for. So that's it for nonprofit.
Any of the nonprofit organizations discussed care to speak? Come on up to the mic, please. Name and address for the record.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Bob Brignoli from the Mental Health Association. I'd like to express our gratitude for the increase this year and just give you kind of an update on the services we provide. In the past 12 months at our walk-in center for walk-in services and ongoing services, we served about 1,300 unduplicated individuals and provided 11,000 services, or 40,000 service units, which are 15 minutes of service. And at our drop-in center, which is open 365 days a year to specifically serve our severe and persistent mentally ill, we actually had over 11,000 visits. So we have exceeded the targets that we had indicated we were hoping to meet during this fiscal year that we provided to you in your report. So again, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Annabelle Robertson, 1360 28th Street, Vero Beach. I'm the Executive Director with United Against Poverty, formerly Harvest Food and Outreach Center. I just wanted to thank the Commission today for your support of the organization, our rapid employment and success training for employment programs, which make up our workforce development programs, are creating a tremendous success. To speak off what Helene was just mentioning, in June and July we've had 7 employment opportunities that averaged $27,600 per employed person, lifting 7 families out of poverty into self-sufficiency here in our community. Through partnerships that we currently have with 30 employers in the community, including Piper, Indian River Medical Center, Girard, as you mentioned earlier, CVS Caremark, we have been able to assist 44 families in becoming employed with almost $1 million impact on wages. And we just really appreciate the partnership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the good work you do.
Keep it up.
Good morning.
Good morning. Susan Booza, CEO of 211 Helpline, and
Paige Woodward, Community Relations Specialist with 211.
we're here to thank you for your continued support, for the fact that with your $10,000, it goes into a budget that is $388,000 for the entire Treasure Coast and goes into another budget of $1.2 million for the 24-hour information referral crisis hotline. Last year we served over 4,000 individuals from Indian River County, and the concern is that 73 of those callers were suicidal and were talking to us about taking their lives. So we are there for them. We have trained staff, and we appreciate your support and your help in getting the word out that 211 is there for Indian River residents 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Thank you very much.
Real quick, do you guys coordinate with the Veterans Council to make sure that they let all the veterans know that the services you guys offer?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
We do.
good.
Yeah, Peter, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Daisy Packer with Keep Indian River Beautiful. My address is 1245 35th Avenue in Vero Beach. I just wanted to thank you all for all of your support. I am just finishing my second year here in Vero Beach, and you all have been very welcoming. We have increased our recycling programs over the last 2 years by about 84% through the store and through our borrow a bin program. And we do provide the free bins for the recycling events, and that all is largely because of you and your commitment to recycling for Indian River County. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
I think that's it for the nonprofits. Jason?
All right. Next, we have the quasi-nonprofit organizations, and the quasi-nonprofits are those agencies that provide a service that the county would otherwise need to provide, you know, for example, the bus system or the Humane Society. So first is Senior Resource Association. The recommended funding is $800,000, an increase of $50,000 or 6.7%. Next is the Senior Resource Grants during the current year. That shows the grants that we get in mid-year, halfway through the year, the $2.9 million. So we will add those grants next year as we get them. Gifford Youth Activity Center, $93,600, an increase of 4%. Progressive Civic League, $12,185. Humane Society, $395,547. Treasure Coast Homeless Services, $15,270.
Thank you. Anybody want to speak on the quasi-nonprofit organizations? Good morning. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. Karen Deagle, CEO with the Senior Resource Association, and I just wanted to say thank you very much for your support now and during the year, and a special thank you to staff throughout the year. And likely on a daily basis, we are in contact with staff and on a number of different projects and issues. So great relationship. Thank you. And we are on track to hit 1.2 million riders this year on Go Line. And in addition, we have just, as of July 1st, the community coach is now operating 7 days a week. We are operating on Sundays now. So thank you very much.
And thank you. I'll say one more time, I think the Go Line is one of the best things that the government does in such an efficient manner that it's greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Name and address to the record, please.
Good morning. I don't see anyone here from GYEC, so as the Vice Chairman of the GYEC, we also would like to thank you for your continued cooperation with them. And I'm here representing the Gifford Progressive Civic League. Also would like to thank you for your continued support financially with us, but I would also like to give a shout out to the staff who work so very well with us in providing the service and the needs when we call on them for something. So I just want to say thank you for your funding, and I want to thank the staff for their cooperation and help us doing our job. Thank you.
And thank you for coming
Thank you,
today.
Doc. Thank you, Godfrey. Godfrey Gibson.
Anyone else from the quasi-nonprofits? Jason?
All right, next is Dory Schlossberg. As you know, these are the fees that are paid on traffic tickets to provide funding for driver's education programs. The recommended budgets are for the Indian River County School District, $48,000, an increase of $1,350 or 2.9% from the current year, and St. Edward's School, $13,315, the same amount as the current year.
Jason,
Well,
is this is the first year that we can announce that the Dory Schlossberg funds are being put to good use and we're going forward instead of encumbering them in a bank account?
Right, they are, the school board has reinstituted a long dormant driver's education program thanks to this, and so there are a lot more early beginning drivers getting driver's education training thanks to these funds than there were last year.
And I don't see anybody, but I'll just ask if anybody wants to
They're right
speak
back
on.
there.
Come on up then.
Yeah.
As they're coming up, Jason, is it allocated on a per student? Because obviously St. Edward's upper class eligible age group in the school districts are much bigger numbers as the disparity shows, but it seems like if it was allocated per eligible student, that the district would be getting a higher number.
Right. These are the amounts that they have requested,
Okay.
that the two agencies have requested.
So it's based on requested, not allocated out per eligible age student. Okay.
Thank you very much. Carter Morrison, CFO for the school district. On behalf of the superintendent and the school district, we want to just thank you for your continued support of the Doris Schlossberg Driver's Ed funds. I have with me here today Mr. John Boland, who is the director for the Treasure Coast Driving School, for any programmatic questions that you may have. But we just wanted to come up here and thank you for your continued support.
So, Mr. Chairman, so this is something that y'all sub out then?
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right, great.
Thank you very much.
We do have some statistics to share, if time allows, regarding the registrations, number of students that are involved in the program, et cetera.
Thank you.
We just have Mr. Boland hand those out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for coming today.
Mr. Chairman, we're handing out some accolades for reinstituting the program, and thank you for having the program. But I want to personally thank Harriet Green.
Amen.
She tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Can we bring this forward?"
Yeah.
And she wanted it to happen, and it happened. So, gentlemen, thank you, and thank you, and thank you to the taxpayer to ensure that it's being done right.
Thank you, sir.
And to my fellow commissioners, every time I see Irv Schlossberg, he always goes out of his way to thank us for reinstating this program here for the county. It's very personal to him with the loss of his daughter.
Absolutely.
Jason.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have the land acquisition bonds, which can be found on page 36 of your packet. These are the bonds approved at the 2004 referendum for environmental lands. The budget is $4,545,134, an increase of $7,498, or 0.2% from last year. This is supported by the countywide millage, which is decreasing from 0.3315 to 0.3143 mils, a decrease of about 5% in the millage rate.
Any questions for Jason? Anyone from the public wish to speak on the land acquisition bond fund? Thank you, Jason.
All right, next we have the street lighting districts, which can be found on pages 40 through 42.
Pay attention, Commissioner Zork.
Per acre parcel?
There you go.
I've been practicing.
Okay.
Is there anyone here who wants to speak on the street lighting district assessment rates?
One comment here, and I'll just, Jason, to look at this a little bit more. Some of them are, the rates are going up because of an anticipated FPL increase. And two things there. One is FPL generally doesn't get the full amount they request. And secondly, it's phased in over a 3-year period. So I just asked staff to kind of go back and look at these. And, you know, we may not have to get the whole hit this year. But also I know some of these have been lacking some, so they do need a little bit of catching up. So I just asked staff to kind of just do a double check and see if the numbers we got there are appropriate.
And I have something else. We have the change in the LED lighting for the county.
Yes, exactly.
Do you know if any of this is applied to the street lighting districts?
We have not applied that to the street lighting district yet because what we purchased through.
But would that be us to exchange them or say FPL to exchange them?
It's FPL or the City of Vero, depending on who's the provider there.
Then I'd ask, not necessarily for this coming year, but I would ask that as soon as possible the discussion begin, particularly with FPL, to see what we can do to instate an LED program and get their assessment. You know, they've got all the information on how many lights, where the lights are, and how long they're used. So ask them basically what the cost would be, capital cost to put in the LED lights over a period of time, and then what they expect the anticipated savings would be, so they can do one of those famous spreadsheets so that we can see what it is and be able to, sometime during the next next year, actually have a public discussion of it so people in the street lighting districts can see and understand, and then make some decisions going forward on that. Because my guess is, based on the little I know about LED lighting, that substantial savings are possible, and it's time, if we can, to start implementing the change to realize these savings for the street lighting districts.
And I think one exception is the Mooring Street Lighting District. They've been looking at replacing their fixtures for years, and they are actually planning to replace those with some LED fixtures. So I misspoke there. There is one.
And it'd be good to see what their actual payments are per light, so for that. So if that can just be put into the...
I agree with you, Commissioner Solari. That's right on point, and it's something that was in the back of my mind when we approved the Oslo Park lights.
We will.
Yeah, last year.
Thank you.
That in
And
mind going forward.
I'll ask one more time, anybody from the street lighting districts want to speak? No, Jason?
All right. The other MSBU's, we've got Fair Lake Estates, $50 per parcel acre. East Gifford Stormwater MSBU, $10 per parcel acre. And Oceanside Street Paving, $415 per lot. No change in these rates from the previous year.
Just new, Oceanside's a new one, right?
Yes.
Yes. So that was... Anybody from the MSBU's? There being no one, Jason?
All right, thank you. Next, we have the enterprise funds, which are on pages 47 through 50 of the backup. So first is the golf course. The proposed budget is $2,807,525, an increase of $25,925 from last year. We'll point out that this is the last year for our original bond issue that was used to finance the construction of the golf course. So we have a very slight decrease in the budget there because the interest expenses were pretty small at this point with just a small amount outstanding. We do anticipate the need to potentially do some interfund borrowing for the lakes irrigation system. If you'll recall, we've got the Dunes course was built first and the lakes was built about 5 years later. So about 3 years ago, we did the Dunes course irrigation. We're currently have a firm designing a new system for the lakes irrigation to replace that system as it's gotten older. It's over 25 years old. It's had more breakdowns. So that was about a $1.2 million project when we did it on the Dunes. We anticipate a similar cost on the lakes. We may need to do some interfund borrowing for that like we did on the Dunes. So we'll come back to you with that when the time comes. Next is building.
Hold on, before we leave that, how much is the debt service on the in general? I mean,
okay, the debt service on the bonds was about $500,000 this year, so that will free that up. And one of the things that we're looking at doing is making sure that we're setting aside enough funds to do our renewal and replacement here, like we're doing in the other areas, and then we will have those the lakes course irrigation, and we'll get on. We're hoping to get the golf course where it can fund the golf carts as we move forward. We've had to do some interfund borrowing between here and there. We think with this it'll free us up to get where we can fund those golf carts moving forward as well.
Okay, super. And it's all been profitable. Yes. in the light.
And that's something that we always point out in our. I like to point out in our golf course. Thank you for reminding me. Is our golf course is fully funded by the user fees that pay it, so no taxpayer dollars are used to subsidize the golf course, and it provides affordable golf for our residents, and is fully self-supported by those that use the facility.
But that's the same for all the enterprise funds.
Sure.
And the same for the other enterprise.
So I mean, it's important to note, for say something like the utilities, with utility expenses going up, well, the revenues are also going up at the same time. So they're not exactly, but more or less the increase in expenses in all these is more or less matched by the increase in anticipated revenues for the coming year.
And I just would like to mention that other communities, specifically to the south of us, are not as happy with their golf courses, their golf course, as our residents.
Well, you don't have to limit it to golf course. Other communities to the south of us generally is not as happy.
Touche.
With a lot of things.
Touche.
Second that.
Village.
Next, building department. The proposed budget is $3,480,028, up $743,075. We have 4.5 full-time positions added here. The half is the one that we mentioned in planning before, where we were splitting a person between the two. We're also adding a plans examiner, contract licensing investigator. We've gotten a lot of concerns from our builders out there that there's improper activity that could be going on, so we're adding a contract license investigator to beef up our efforts there. Adding 2 building support specialists. One of those is to help with our scanning of our plans and to provide those. We get a lot of requests these days for old plans from a development that was started in 2006, but it's being picked up now. We're adding a plans examiner. We're not proposing an additional building inspector right now. That's because we've got some vacancies that we're trying to fill. If we're able to fill those, we may come back to you and add the additional building inspectors so that we can provide that turnaround.
How much profit is the building department making right now?
We are, and hence the reason for the slight rate decrease. We are running ahead of our expenditures by a significant amount, by probably about 20%. One of the things that we need to do is there are some improvements that we want to put in place. We want to decrease the number of inspections that our building inspectors are having to do a day, because they're really getting pushed, and we want to try and avoid the rollovers where an inspection doesn't get done that next year. So we need to make some improvements to what we have now. We are cautiously optimistic that we can do the 5% rate decrease and fund those other improvements that we need to do so that we can.
I guess where I'm going with this is, I had spoke with Rich the other day when we were waiting on you to come out to Fellsmere, and just some of the things that he had the opportunity to experience while he was up in Brevard County with some of the permitting side, that I think I'd really like to sit down with me, you, Dory, and Rich, and just look at how it sounded like to me it was a very good system that allowed every department to be able to look at, for example, building department could look over in public works, over in the engineering side for site plans, et cetera. And it was very intriguing, but it sounded very costly too. But it would be one of those things I'd like to see the options on some of those.
And we are looking at some things like that. Those are costly. We do have some fund balances that we would use for some technology improvements there. Mm-hmm. We've got some additional online permitting requirements that are coming down the line for next year as well.
Coming from the state, I bet.
From the state, yeah.
Surprise face, anybody? Anybody surprise face?
Did I say unfunded mandates
yeah.
yet? Just want to make sure we cover that issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are looking at things. We're taking some steps this year, but in the long range, we're looking at continuing to do things that can make us more efficient and more responsive to our customers at the end of the day. Next is utilities, $39,432,422, up $478,617. This is one of those areas where we are increasing our renewal and replacement. We're increasing it by about $800,000 this year. So our total budgeted renewal and replacement is $3.7 million. We're wanting to make sure that we make the commitment to do the renewal and replacement on our utility system and not fall behind. We want to be proactive and not go fix things when the water line breaks. We want to be proactive and get those ahead of time. And so it makes sense to increase this here because our utility, if you'll recall, it's fairly new. So we got into the business in the 80s, and we've expanded our network, and a lot of our infrastructure is not that old. However, some of our infrastructure is getting pretty old, getting to that 30-year period. So we're in a transition from a new upstart utility to where we're more mature. So we've got to continue to grow our system, but now we've got to make sure that we're maintaining the older infrastructure that we have in place. We are able to do that without impacting the rates because we did pay down $7 million of bonds early last year and refinanced another $7 million at a lower interest rate. So that saved us about $1.2 million a year in debt service. So we're able to fund this $800,000 increase from with those savings and not place a burden on the rates. Another thing that we're looking at is an asset mapping to go out and evaluate our system so that we've got a good GIS database of this pipe is X number of years old, this valve is so many years old, so that we can focus our renewal and replacement where we need to. Where is it most urgent? Where is it going to get us the most bang for the buck? Also moving forward with various technology changes here. We've got the AMI pilot program that will increase our customer service if once we move in that direction, and increase our efficiency out in the field. Also for online payments, as you recall, just yesterday, this board approved a new software that will increase our options for our customers and make it easier for them to pay their bill online than it is currently today. So as we go forward, the customer's expecting more and more in our technology and our online capabilities, and we're looking to deliver that.
You know, I dare say it, I haven't received a utility complaint call for quite a while now that I think about it.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, I mean, it'll happen right now, yeah.
Thanks for jinxing it.
Yeah, come in tomorrow.
Wait, there goes my phone now.
So that's it for the enterprise funds.
I'll ask if anybody from the public wants to speak on the enterprise funds. There isn't any, gentlemen. We're moving along pretty well, and there are two constitutional officers sitting patiently in the audience, so I was wondering if I could jump ahead to them.
Sure.
So I'll ask if Leslie Swan wants to come on up. I'm sorry about this. Jason, I'm going to
That's all right.
let you jump ahead and
Shift gears.
don't go away, Sheriff.
No fear on that one.
So if you could just do basically the clerk of the court, and then we'll let Leslie speak if she wants to, and then the sheriff's.
Sure, thank you. So the supervisor of elections, the proposed budget is $1,282,257, an increase of $27,514 or 2.2%. That's slightly less than the original request just due to the decrease in the health insurance and the OPEB that we had made. But otherwise it's the same amount as requested. We do appreciate Leslie presenting a fair and responsible budget, particularly in a year that's including a presidential election. We think that's a reasonable increase. I do want to add that we have the last installment for the new voting equipment that's going to be required, I think by 2018 or 2017. Okay, so 2017. So we've Leslie requested a couple of years ago that we begin a 3-year plan to fund that. We have funded that, so I'll put another shameless plug for sales tax. This is another thing that we've been able to fund without putting a burden on the property taxes. And just once again want to thank Leslie for her conservative budget request.
Leslie, any other things in the bushes we need to worry about that you see coming?
No, I just want to thank you all so much. We really appreciate it, and thank Jason. And we just have 2 major events that are coming up: the presidential election on November 8th, and also the acquisition of our new voting equipment. And we expect a very high turnout for this presidential election, and we expect a rather long ballot. We're going to have 4 constitutional amendments. We're going to have your county referendum. All 5 municipalities may have races on there for their council members, any charter revisions, also federal, state, multi-county, county-wide, and special elections. So not special district races. So I'm budgeting for the probability of a 2-card ballot, and that's what we had 4 years ago during the presidential election. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we won't have to. And we've also added 10,000 new voters since the last presidential election. We've had some redistricting changes. The state senate and congressional districts went to court. They fought over the lines, and so they've been redrawn. So we're going to have to send out now 103,000 new voter registration cards. And it doesn't seem like that costs a lot, but it does cost a great deal of money to do that. And we're also really excited about our new voting system. So we'll be working with the budget department, writing our request for proposal. We've already started on it. And we're hoping that right after the general election, we can start on those plans, because we want to get that equipment in early 2017, so it will be ready for the municipal elections in November. So I want to thank you again for supporting the elections office.
Thank you very much.
And it's hard to believe there's not any new federal something that they're trying to do to the election process somehow that would cost us more money.
Don't say that.
I know.
Step up here.
I know. I just.
Just one short question. Is your air conditioning working well out there now?
Now it's working great. Thank you so much.
What did it wind up being?
Well, they had to, the unit that they put in the warehouse, I guess it was reconditioned or something, and it was leaking all over the place. And I think a lot of it had to do with the drainage, so they came back and reworked it, and it seems to be working great right now.
Super.
It all reverted back to one valve.
Really?
One valve that had to be changed.
And that was causing the brownouts when you'd get your power surges too?
We haven't had those
Hadn't had
lately,
those?
so.
I'm messing everything up.
Eliminating
I'm
the
a-
coolant from being able to roll
Now,
through.
the AC people told us it had nothing to do with the brownout, so I don't know.
Yeah, but I think prior might have.
Yeah.
So,
Could have
Good.
been.
but thank you very much.
Thank you, Leslie.
Sheriff. Good morning. Thanks for coming today.
Good morning.
Jason,
Thank you.
Jason, if you can handle the sheriff's
I
items.
had to make an impromptu change on the, on part of the presentation. We'll get that started. I promise to be under 10 minutes.
Well, let
Hopefully.
Jason go ahead and just give us the intro.
Okay.
And we'll, under 10 minutes. I had you,
That long?
I had you down for about 2.
Yeah.
We can probably do that as well.
Yeah, that would be better.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Sheriff's Department budget, the current year budget is $42,881,988. The proposed budget that we're recommending is $45,294,789. This is a significant decrease from the sheriff's original request. The original request was up about $3.7 million in total. We were able to reduce the budget by about $400,000 between the health insurance and the OPEB changes. We worked with the sheriff after that, and he was gracious enough to work with us and cut his budget by about another $900,000 to get us to where we are today, about a 5.6% increase or $2.4 million. Would like to add that we're using about $643,000 of optional sales tax to purchase sheriff's vehicles in the budget to take some of the load off the general fund. The current year we used about $400,000, so we're looking at an increase of about $200,000. So that gets to where our general fund impact is only a 5.1% increase or $2,155,000 increase. So I'd like to thank the sheriff for working with us on this. Without his cooperation, we would have really had a very challenging time getting to no change in the millage rate, which was our goal all along. No change in millage rate in general fund and MSTU. We were able to get there thanks to effort from a lot of folks, but very key in that was the sheriff working with us.
Thank you. Sheriff.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, and thank you for your cooperation throughout the year. I recently returned from a convention the last 2 days in the Orlando area, highlighting a lot of the obvious things that have been going on in the world, in the country, and particularly in the state. And you know, on 5/2, approximately when I submitted the budget and I met with the commissioners, we did in fact introduce our budget, and then of course, the end of June, I met with Mr. Brown and Mike. Forgive me for not being able to pronounce your last name, and all in the cooperation of working together. And as you originally had seen in the month of May, some of the positions that I were requesting and the like, and then of course meeting again and massaging our OPEB as well as our health, we were able to essentially satisfy what Mr. Brown and at the board's direction, the direction that was given to him, I'm told, to work together very well. I can also tell you that throughout the 67 counties in the state of Florida, oftentimes the sheriffs, in fact there were 54 of us yesterday talking, and I always brag about how I have a relationship not only with the former administrator but the current, because things come up like how are you going to pay for this or how are you going to pay for that, particularly if a catastrophic event occurs. And I have all the confidence in the world that albeit some things may not be budgeted, if we did have a crisis situation, this board would work with me obviously, to recoup some of those dollars. Just got a real quick presentation. Our CFO, Kelly Goodwin, is here. And I just want to be very brief and show you some of the things that we've been up to. Kelly, if you want to go forward. Of course, this was the one that was submitted on 5/2 that you're familiar with, the 46601. Kelly, can go to the next one. And this is the revised that, of course, I worked with Mr. Brown. And the next one, Kelly. One thing that's important, obviously, here's how we were able to reduce that, the 13 positions that we'd initially asked for, as well as the OPEB and the health, came to that 1.3. Extremely transparent, as always. The next one, Kelly. This is something that recently changed in submission of the budget. You may be aware of a situation where G4S security was utilized since 2003. Those two employees for G4S worked at the front door of our security guard. That was a trend in the late 90s and early 00s that actually was implemented here in 03. I've elected to end that contract on 9/30 and replace them with deputy sheriffs. That's going to be an increase to me of approximately $63,360. Just so you know, the media is well aware of that, but that was a situation that obviously we were all aware of. And the next one, Kelly. This again is a short discussion of our revenue history. Of course, we continue to enjoy a partnership with the school district where they pay half of an entry-level school resource deputy. I've worked very closely with Dr. Rendell. You may or may not know that we have 2 deputy sheriffs on each high school. In the past, we only had 1 at each high school. Now we have 1 at Sebastian River, 1 at Vero Beach High School, 1 at every middle school, 1, of course, at the Flick. Of course, he helps pay half of that. Some of the other grants, the VOCA grants, you're all aware of. I'm not going to bore you with those. The civil process fees are not where they were. Of course, they are tied to the economy directly. So with that being said, I gave Mr. Brown my word, and at the end of the day, all you have is your word that we will work together. That does not mean that, somewhere down the line, I would desire additional folks. Obviously, there's additional folks that I've already heard so far this year, or this morning in the presentation. And we'd all like more. I can tell our men and women are working extremely hard with what we have, and we're going to continue to do that no matter what. However, if this board and Mr. Brown are in the giving mood, I'm always open to suggestions. We can certainly use the horsepower, the manpower for specific things. We feel confident that the budget that has previously been amended, that we certainly will be providing our employees with a modest salary increase.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Sir.
Earlier, and for Sheriff, earlier, John O'Connor got up and talked about needs in the community and played a tape, and we can appreciate that. Just going back to what we did with fire safety is we utilized a building that would probably have been sold, and now we're relocating it and going to put 10 positions in that location so that we will have better services and ALS. I most certainly would like to see an ambulance in that facility, but I believe that's up the road. When it comes to the sheriff, this board stands for total transparency, and we also don't want to micromanage. And I believe the sheriff has to have the highest degree of transparency, but with safety and security in mind. And he proposed a few positions earlier this year, and that was just about when certain events were unraveling in this country. And he was getting positive intelligence information and feeling that he had to apply a couple of positions. Those positions were added and then gracefully detracted because of our budgetary needs. We've gone above and beyond in certain other areas of safety and security. And I don't believe the sheriff can totally release and reveal, how do I word that? Release and reveal his plans to keep us safe, to keep us secure, and maintain that transparency without compromising the safety and security of the citizens. I can appreciate that. You got to keep that mark behind you. So, Sheriff, those positions and the applications that you proposed to us prior to some of these events unraveling added up to a certain amount. Could you give us that figure?
Sure. Actually, it was on the slide prior to.
Yeah,
about the 958, just shy of $1 million. Other, as I mentioned earlier, it's not if, but when the situation occurs in any River County, I know that I'll be able to come to this board for some type of emergency dollars. There's no doubt about that. That's obvious. Had recent events occurred prior to the submission and prior to my meeting with Mr. Brown, I probably would be, or I'm sorry, if it had been the other way around, had these events happened afterwards, there probably would have been an adjustment on the budget to some extent. So there's compromises we can make. We've also got some huge expenses coming up with respect to the transition to the P25 radios, with the obviously the expansion of some large infrastructure changes at the Sheriff's Office that myself and Mr. Brown have talked about with respect to long-term plans of a new administration building. That we've had those discussions, and as with any budget preparation, there's negotiations made. But certainly, additional employees would help. I know that, that I've seen that already this morning in some departments, and I could certainly entertain those and put those to good use.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Sheriff, just, I appreciate the additional personnel comments, but I guess the biggest concern that I would have right now is, are we doing everything we can to keep those men and women in green and white safe? Is there safety issues that we
are. We're some of the best trained on the coast. There's no doubt. Obviously to keep the spirit up, there's a lot of things going on. But as with anything, the dollars certainly help as well.
I appreciate everything the sheriff's done to keep this in line so that we can keep the general fund millage rate flat. I think that the increases that he's presented are significant but appropriate. But I also think it's important to realize, as the sheriff said a couple times this morning, that we have a good dialogue going, and that if something does extraordinary happen, we'll be listening to the sheriff when he comes to us. And he understands that we know this, and that's worked that way in the past. So I think that the budget as modified is good. I'm supportive of it, but knowing that we'll always have an open door with the sheriff.
Miscellaneous budget amendments are there for a reason, Mr. Chair. I'll see you next Tuesday.
All right.
So Sheriff, you feel confident today that we can continue on in a positive manner to ensure the safety and security of the citizens with the budget that you've proposed?
I do.
As well as the deputies.
I do. And we're not bogged down in negotiations and other things, but I'm not going to keep beating it up. But obviously, I come before you several times a year with different ideas and issues, and it's always worked flawlessly. And I want to make sure Mr. Brown is successful in his inaugural year as well.
Thank you very much.
We're both
Make
going to
sure
be
you
here a
have
long time.
everything you need.
And one question.
Thank you.
Commissioner O'Brien?
Thank you. Sheriff, I think you were here earlier when Mr. O'Connor from Fire Rescue mentioned potentially some cross-training, maybe with your department for active shooter situations. Do you have a program for that or a training that you could work with the fire rescue guys?
Yes, sir, we do. In fact, we have a private partnership in the Sebastian area where we do that type of training, we welcome that. In fact, out of the class that I was in yesterday, we went over the whole Pulse nightclub thing from beginning to end, and there were some situations where fire rescue needed some additional training and/or resources, capital to be exact. So we'll work on that. And you know, with 28 years of service, we see the law enforcement continuum change. Commissioner Fletcher has seen that. And sometimes when you have gigantic events, whether internal or external, a lot of folks think we have to go out and do this, this, and this. Fact is, you've got to remain calm and accomplish the mission and adjust accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
So one item,
Yes, sir.
and Sheriff, as the discussions we had about from when we initially met and more recent conversations, that as you think through or see if something that's unique and specific, then you can bring back to us.
Yes, sir.
Like you said, those budget amendments have a purpose, and we'll give those due consideration.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner.
Anyone from the audience care to speak on the sheriff's budget? Name and address for the record, please.
Walt Geiger, Indian River County. I just have one question, and that's since the budget has dropped from an increase of 9% down to 5%, does that mean that this 40% increase in overtime is trimmed down or something, or?
And you're speaking specifically about the sheriff's budget?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
yeah.
No, Mr. Geiger, we can debate all day long whether you're going to hire additional people to reduce your overtime, or is it cheaper to have one FTE and not pay the additional expenses such as FRS and health. So sometimes a specific position, in fact, is cheaper to have overtime versus a full FTE with equipment, training, and the things I've already mentioned. We're working on that. Unfortunately, we have events that come up that inevitably entail overtime.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I think that's a tremendous increase in overtime, and there ought to be some people should be shifted. You got 447 people to work with. Seems to me you should be able to shift some people around since most of them are trained to do this, to not have a 40% increase in overtime in 1 year. That's the most that I've seen since I've been here.
And actually, I may or may not argue with that, but my own feeling on this is, or actually my position, which I've had for the 8 years I've been here, is that I'm concerned with the overall number that the sheriff brings in, but he's a constitutional officer elected by the people of Indian River County, and how he manages those dollars is not my particular concern. I'm not a law enforcement expert, and I believe the responsibility for those budgetary dollars ought to be with the elected officer who has them. And I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, but that's how I've operated for the last 8 years, and I believe that, at least for myself, that's how I'll continue to operate.
We're also working with the sheriff at the current time to bring the other post-employment benefits down. We've been trying to get him to negotiate with the unions to try to reduce the amount of sick leave and annual leave officers can hang on to. I mean, it's ridiculous, the amount that they're able to earn, way over what any other place around here permits. And that type of thing, I think, needs to be reduced. Hopefully, before the next budget session, we'll have some numbers that we can let you know about.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for attending. Too few citizens come to the budget hearings, and we appreciate the time you've taken to be here today.
Well, I missed the health thing. I didn't think you were going to go through the health thing so quick.
Yeah.
It didn't seem as quick from where I was sitting.
Send you a letter, I guess.
Thanks. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Joe Ehrman, 4375 9th Lane, Vero Beach. I totally support the sheriff's budget, and I would like y'all to consider finding a creative way, as Jason I know can do, of possibly looking over this fiscal year of maybe funding some of these additional positions that he's requested. I think with everything that's going on, the public demands that. Also, I would ask to look, and I haven't spoke with the sheriff about this or
But
anything,
clearly note that the public hasn't demanded it, because we have a public workshop here, and the public is not here demanding it.
Right,
so.
no, I understand. And what you said was definitely true, talking to Mr. Geiger about the county commission's role with this. And like I said, I haven't spoken with the sheriff. I would just hope to see that maybe we could fund additional people that he did withdraw from his budget, maybe somehow later this year. And also increase training for the sheriff and the fire rescue division. I think, especially in this day and age right now, public safety is imperative. Things have definitely changed, and I applaud you for what y'all are doing, but I just encourage you to possibly get a little bit creative and see what we can do to fund any additional positions within the sheriff's office and additional training in both fire rescue and the sheriff's department. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the sheriff's?
John O'Connor, International Association of Firefighters, President Local 2201. I stand in support of the sheriff's budget and whatever he needs throughout the year. I think it's pretty apparent that if they can't clear the call for us, if we have some type of emergency and we're in a standby type of situation, that kind of log jams the system itself, and it increases call times and the wait for us to try to get there to do our job. So we need them there on the streets to protect us, to make sure that we're safe, and anything you guys can do to make sure that they get the training that they need, as well as us, to work with them in conjunction to make sure that we're prepared to handle any type of emergency situation. We need all the help we can get. So I appreciate your consideration in supporting the sheriff and everybody that protects us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Anyone else on the sheriff's budget?
Mr. Chairman, just two comments. On the increases, we do have some savings options that we're looking at. One, if City of Vero Beach sale goes through, which is still an uphill battle, that would save the sheriff, the portion of operating the sheriff's complex, about $400,000 a year. At the same time, we're tracking through Rich Spurka and Public Works some energy analysis studies on installation of natural gas powered systems that could also reduce even equal or greater amount to that could provide savings to the operation of that campus that in the total picture cost, it was line item out the energy portion. But if we can save money somewhere else on that campus, then that can go towards offsetting the cost for these positions. And those would be ongoing savings as well as the positions would be.
Thank you. Anyone else on the sheriff's? Let's move to the clerk of the court, please. Jason.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. So the clerk of the court proposed budget is $988,668, an increase of $67,298 or 7.3%. Once again, this is a slight decrease from the original budget request based on the changes in the health insurance and the OPEB and some other adjustments that were made by the clerk of the court. We are recommending the budget as requested by the clerk.
Well, I don't know, a 7.3% increase. I can see why Mr. Smith isn't here today. Ms. Bernardo, if you have some comments.
No, Diane Bernardo, Finance Director. I'm here on Jeff's behalf as he is in Orlando presenting our courthouse budget. So I'm here just in the event somebody has any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Bernardo? Thank you very much, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Move to the property appraiser.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We'll let Jason say a few words and then allow you to make whatever comments you wish, sir.
All right, the property appraiser's budget, the total budget is $3,497,893, an increase of $20,799 or 0.6%. You'll see on the slide there is showing a slight decrease. That is the general fund amount, and that's just basically a change in the allocation because we pay the property appraiser's budget through our various different taxing funds, the emergency services district, land acquisition bonds, our street lighting districts, and solid waste. It's all based on a state formula. So the overall budget's going up 0.6%. That general fund portion is going down just 0.6%, but the overall budget is an increase of $20,799 or 0.6% from the current year.
Mr. Nolte, Any comments or?
Jason, you have done a fabulous job turning a plus into a negative. I love it.
Any questions for Ms. Nolte?
I have one. It was either last budget cycle or possibly the one before there was a kind of a mid-year software payment or software maintenance agreement. Is that now rolled into your ongoing budget, or has that obligation been filled? Because I think it was
Rolled into ours.
rolled into your base budget. Okay, good.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
It's a joy working for you.
Yep. Thank you. And Jason, thank you for indulging me in that, and we can now go back to the regularly scheduled program.
Okay, I think we were on internal service funds?
Yes.
I think we
Correct.
got through all of the enterprise funds, if I recall correctly. So internal service funds, first we have fleet management, $3,555,653, a decrease of $99,320. Next is risk management. This is the fund where we pay for our not our health insurance, our property and casualty, workers' comp and liability insurance. The budget is $4,649,602, an increase of $85,833. I think my mic was off. But we do anticipate a little bit of a slight increase in our workers' comp going forward. There were some court decisions that will increase those costs. We have a slight increase in the workers' comp rate going forward, but that has been absorbed here in this budget. Next is the employee health insurance. The proposed budget is $18,153,528, an increase of $1,552,074. That is all of the things that we talked about last month regarding the changes in the health insurance are factored into this, and that is the projected increase in our expenditures there.
Jason, on the health insurance, do you have any 5-year detail on that? Just on the gross amounts?
We can get that to you.
And no hurry, but that's something I'd like to see, because that employee health insurance item is a budget driver. And I'd like to just get a little better sense of where we've been over the last 5 years, and that I appreciate that. Thank you.
Jason, on the workman's comp cost, there was a recent court ruling that I think that will affect premium rates anywhere from 12 to 17%. I don't know what effective date where that would come into play on our premium renewal policy renewal period, but that could be something on the horizon that we have to watch out for.
So yeah, so there are a couple of major cases that came up recently. One was about an increased eligibility for number of weeks that you can get temporary total disability. There was previously a limit of 104 weeks where you could get temporary total disability, and the case was where the person hadn't reached their maximum medical improvement, which is where you determine what your permanent disability is. And so there was a gap there, and I think that was a St. Petersburg case. And there was a change in the fact that that gap has to be funded. You don't have the 104-week maximum anymore. So what happened there is there was a 1-year period between when the 104 weeks ran out and the permanent disability kicked in. So that has been decided that that gap has to be closed. We haven't really had those issues, and honestly, we probably would have. If that was us, we would have worked something out. You could continue to pay benefits that you work out of the final settlement. We don't think that's the major driver. What we think is the bigger driver is the case that changes the attorney's compensation. So prior to, I can't remember the case name right now, but prior to that decision, the fees paid to the attorneys was very limited, very restricted. Right. So you had fewer attorneys that were willing to do workers' comp work, and a lot of times the environment was more favorable for the employer to get settlements earlier. Now there may be more incentive for some of the plaintiffs' law firms to drag those cases out, and the thought is those settlements could get larger because of those changes. And I think I think the workers' comp rates, they were looking at an increase of about 12% based on those two things, and I think it's primarily the latter. So we're trying to account for those things, but we anticipate that will have a long-term. I think it'll take us a little bit longer before we actually see the impact of that, but going forward, that'll increase those costs.
Okay.
Next is the GIS and IT budget. That is $1,592,915, an increase of $199,238. This fund funds both our GIS department and our computer services department. We are proposing one additional full-time position in computer services that will provide probably about 75% of the time will be dedicated to the building department and some of those improvements that we're looking to make there and supporting the IT there, and the other 25% in our general information technology. We have the NeoGov, Granicus, all of too many for me to remember and list all here together. But we're recommending that one additional position there, and $199,000 increase. And all of these internal service funds are billed back out to the county departments because they're all departments that provide services to the county overall. So with that is all of the internal service funds.
Thank you very much. Anybody from the audience want to speak on the internal service funds? Jason, you're free to go forward.
Now I'm going to turn it over to Mike Smykowski for the miscellaneous funds, so I can get a little drink of water.
Thank you, Jason. Miscellaneous funds begin on page 57. Fund 102 is the traffic improvement fee. The proposed budget in FY17 is $6,047,000. That's a decrease of $2,263,717. Obviously, we'll be updating the CIP, so those numbers may change as we update our five-year project list. The same goes for the additional impact fees that are aggregated in Fund 103. The proposed budget's $1,776,957, which is a decrease of $3,785,081. Again, as we update the CIP, those numbers will likely change. Fund 108 is the Section 8 rental assistance program. The proposed budget's $2,258,602, a nominal change of $17,709. Secondary road construction, Fund 109, the proposed budget at this juncture is $7,698,994, a decrease of $2,964,248. Again, that's a fund that will likely change as we update the CIP in the coming months. Fund 112 Special Law Enforcement had a budget in FY16 of $30,000. That was residual fund balance. There is no proposed budget in 17. Tree ordinance fines was funded with fund balance. That is showing a budget of $50,000, a decrease of $100,000 from FY16 levels. Again, we're spending down residual fund balance there. The Tourist Development Fund 119 is for your marketing and promotion. The proposed budget is $868,200, an increase of $54,210. We were able to fund all of the requests that went to the board via separate agenda item. And again, all of the requesters were able to be fully funded at their respective funding levels. That's outlined on page 61. Fund 120 is the 9/11 surcharge budget. It's $927,589, which is an increase of $95,564. Noteworthy thing is typically this is an area where you have a lot of replacement computer equipment, monitors, and the like, servers on an annual basis. Fund 123 is the SHIP funds. We did have an increase in our SHIP allocation. The proposed budget in FY17 is $1,176,588, or an increase of $159,095. The MPO Planning Fund 124 budget is proposed at $592,183, which is a decrease of $1,306,300. FY16 budget that has grants that are typically added mid-year by budget amendment, so that would change. Multi-jurisdictional law enforcement, the MACE funding, that was residual cash in FY16, so there is no proposed budget in FY17, a decrease of $141,814. Fund 127, the Native Uplands Acquisition Fund, is showing no change. The proposed budget's $105,000 as it was in FY16. That's funded with fund balance. The Beach Restoration Fund, which is funded by tourist tax dollars, is showing a budget of $2,859,405, or an increase of $1,542,038. And that's for the Sector 3 Mitigation Reef Project is the principal change there. Florida Border Improvement Program funding is proposed at $190,100, which is a decrease of $377,671. Again, that's a function of grants that were received in FY16, reflecting the decrease. The Library Bequest Fund of $10,741. This is Fund 134. There is no proposed budget. That was spending down residual cash. Disabled Access Programs. This is also residual cash from handicap parking fines is used to fund access improvements at government center facilities. That's proposed at $20,000, no change from the FY16 level. Intergovernmental grants are through HUD. Excuse me. They're at $909,559, and those are going to vary based on the spend down plan for each of the respective. There's a whole series of grants outlined in the budget, and that's the residual of each of those respective grants. The Traffic Education Program, the Dory Schlossberg, we spoke about that earlier, is $61,350, an increase of $1,350. And that's split between the two organizations that are now providing driver's education programs within the county. The next three funds are funded, were part of the Article 5 funding, funded with additional surcharges. The court facilities is reflecting a budget of $170,000, which is a decrease of $200,452. That decrease was associated with the one-time money in FY16 that was utilized for court facility improvements. The additional court cost is largely unchanged at $122,876. It's a slight increase, $7,536. The Court Technology Fund we've spoken about, that is funded at $371,959 and is a decrease of $80,727. Finally, there's no change in the Land Acquisition Series 2006 fund, which has fund balance funding $65,000 in appropriations consistent with the FY16 level.
Mike, good job. What you just did is the equivalent of the street lighting districts, and you get to keep that job until you're replaced.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck, Commissioner Zorn.
Yes.
Any questions from
and
the
then
audience on miscellaneous funds? There being none, Jason, you can go on to the debt service.
Sure. Dodger bonds, $1,048,166. an increase of $60,166. These are just the debt service payments for the Dodgertown bond issue from 2001. Next is the Dodgertown Capital Reserve Fund, $250,000, no change from the current year. That's per the lease agreement we have with Historic Dodgertown. Last is the optional 1-cent sales tax fund. The proposed budget's $26,099,675, a decrease of $29,019,603. That's decreases due to the fluctuation of in capital projects year to year, plus the carry forward of several projects. And one last shameless plug for our optional sales tax. All of the important road projects and various improvements we've done here today have helped us keep those ad valorem taxes lower. That's it for other debt and capital.
Anyone in the audience care to comment on other debt and capital? There being none, I think this is probably a great time for a break. We will reconvene at a time certain, 1:30, for the public hearing on the solid waste disposal district. And I thank everyone. It's 1:30 and time to open the public hearing for the solid waste disposal district. The public hearing for the solid waste disposal district is now open. I'll turn the floor over to the County Administrator, Jason Brown.
Thank you, Commissioner Solari. The proposed solid waste district budget for next year is $13,141,095, an increase of $3,660. This district is primarily funded through non-ad valorem assessments. The charges per ERU are $102.61. That's the same rate as the current year. That is the amount charged to a single-family residence. The charge for a commercial waste generation unit is $35.55, no change. The readiness to use fee is $20.49, an increase of 53 cents or 2.7%. There is also an landfill ash product disposal fee is $19.51, an increase of 20 cents or 1.04%. That is the rate that is charged to ENEOS. With that being said, that is the summary of the solid waste disposal district. So if there are any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Brown? I'll ask if there's anybody in the audience who'd like to come up and ask any questions.
There's nobody in the audience, sir.
Oh, I was going to make
I just
just
wanted to point that out.
Yeah, thank you. With that, I will close the public hearing. Is there any further action we need to take on this today? No. Very good. We'll move on to constitutional officers. We did some of them this morning, the clerk of the court, the tax collector, the supervisor of elections, and the sheriff. We'll now move to the property appraiser. Jason.
I think we did the property appraiser.
The tax collector.
Yes, sir.
Jason.
Tax collector. We have included the tax collector. We include the tax collector in the budget. I will note that the tax collector's budget is submitted to the Department of Revenue and is not due until August 1st. So we have budgeted $1,265,104 in the general fund for the tax collector's office, no change from the current year. We also have the value adjustment board. The proposed budget is $66,950, a decrease of $1,500 or 2.2%.
Any questions for Jason? Anybody in the audience want to comment on the value adjustment board? Well, we can, pardon? So with that, we can move on to the aggregate millage. Mr. Brown.
Once again, this is a state requirement. The aggregate millage is essentially an average millage across the county. Nobody actually pays this rate, but we must report on it. The current rate is 5.8001 mils. The rollback rate is 5.504 mils. Our proposed aggregate millage is 5.8349 mils, an increase of 0.2845 or 5.1% above current.
Thank you very much. So we can now go to the recap. Total proposed budget and proposed millage rates, Mr. Brown.
Okay, so this is the final recap, and we will go over the total proposed budget for 2016-17 is $308,029,307, a decrease of $33,718,474 or 9.9%. The rest of these are
Give the rest of the sentence on that one. An increase over the.
This is an increase of about 10% over the initial budget of just under $280 million.
$279,999,000 for an increase of $28 million.
Yes.
For the sake of public transparency.
For the sake of public transparency. Next is the general fund. The proposed millage is 3.3602, no change from current, and 4.6% above the rollback rate. The proposed budget is $81,182,145, and this is the place where we could entertain direction on the general fund budget and proposed millage rate.
Fine. Do you want to put up that slide? I thought you had a slide for the actual motion.
Right, it's just that general fund section.
So you'd like a motion for this to authorize the total proposed budget for 2016-17 of $308,029,307.
Been said, so moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
From Commissioner Flesher, seconded by Commissioner Zork. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Commissioner Davis absent.
Next is the municipal service taxing unit. Proposed millage is 1.
Actually, Jason, I think what the board just did was they had made a motion on the proposed budget.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we'll have them also do a motion on the general fund.
Jump the
So,
Mr.
you have
Chairman,
to
I'd like to make a motion on the proposed general fund, the millage at 3.3602, 4.6% above rollback, and the proposed budget is $81,182,145.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Flesher, seconded by Commissioner O'Brien. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-1. Commissioner Davis absent. Municipal service taxing.
Now it's my turn. Okay. Municipal service taxing unit, proposed budget, the proposed millage is 1.0733 mils, the same as the current rate and 4.4% above rollback. The proposed budget is $30,395,064.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for the municipal services.
You're actually slow there, Commissioner Fletcher. I'm going to give the motion to Commissioner Zork, the second to you. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Commissioner Davis absent. Do you want a motion for the transportation fund also?
We don't levy a millage there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's been traditional in the past to have gone.
Fine. Chair will.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for the transportation fund. The proposed budget is $14,944,450.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Fletcher, second by Commissioner O'Brien. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Commissioner Davis absent. Emergency Service District. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve. Let's, if we could read it out for the audience. Just
Proposed, motion to approve proposed millage is 2.3010, 6.5% above rollback. The proposed budget is $34,331,941.
We have a motion from Commissioner Zork.
Second, discussion, please, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. We have a motion from Commissioner Zork, second by Commissioner O'Brien.
Just earlier in the presentation, John O'Connor, the president of the Firefighters Union, mentioned some air conditioning system problems at Station 11. It's my understanding from staff that immediately upon the first time they heard of this issue, a technician went out to the station to inspect it. It is an old AC unit, and it's scheduled for replacement tomorrow, I believe, is that correct?
That's correct.
So I think staff has reacted very quickly to that. Another item that was brought up was.
If I could just, for the
Yeah,
record, because actually staff said they first heard about it Monday night.
Right.
So we know, so Monday night they first heard about it, Tuesday morning a technician went out, assessed the air conditioner, said it wasn't worth keeping in.
Thursday it'll be
Thursday
replaced.
it's gonna be replaced, so there wasn't, as you basically wanted to point out, there was no delay at all in this.
And then also, he requested some additional training for an active shooter situation, and the sheriff did represent that he does have training and programs available, that he would work with the firefighters on that training. So I think we've addressed several of those issues.
Thank you very much.
And I'd like to add that we want to always be responsive to those types of issues regarding the mold question. We're on top of the AC unit. We think that should resolve it. If there's anything outstanding, we will definitely take any steps necessary to take care of that.
Thank you.
Any
Do you have a
situation.
And I would like us to keep an open mind that Station 15 would not have been if it was not for some creativity in relocating an older temporary building out there. Yes, based on the information that Mr. O'Connor provided, which is not a daily event, but it is something that has reoccurred, it is very difficult to impose upon any further budget dollars for reoccurring employment costs that will continually be present. I understand. I would just like to be a little more open about the fact that we might be looking at expanding Station 15 once it's established. And Mr. Brown did state that we will be looking for a permanent site for Station 15 as well, and that is in the works or in our future.
And Mr. Chairman, on that same discussion, since John came into the room here a little bit late, kind of continuing it from the earlier discussion, whether it's a med unit at 15 is the best relief to the system, or a Bravo unit, which is a secondary station ambulance to cover a particular sector based at the hospital footprint, that is 15% of the if this was a business, that's 15% of your customers are in that defined footprint. There's probably a number of ways to look at what provides the best relief to the system. Overall, my goal is to get the care to the caller as quick as possible, and then also what is the most cost-efficient way to deliver that service. So putting one unit out at 15, that would be good, but we still have this high demand footprint that we're always importing ambulances in to cover that area, since there's not a station in that particular area. So we just have to weigh out our costs to make the best decision for the taxpayer, but also increasing our level of service and response time.
And staff will evaluate those service level additions as we come forward, and of course, anything will come back to the board to make a final policy decision on those items.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Commissioner Davis absent. Environmental Land Acquisition 2004 referendum. The proposed millage is .3143. The rollback rate does not apply. The proposed budget is $4,545,134.
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Zork. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Commissioner Davis absent. We will now ask the county attorney to announce the public hearings for the budget.
Thank you very much. We have a preliminary budget hearing, which will be scheduled for September 14th, 2016. That will begin at 5:01 p.m. here in the Board of County Commissioner Chambers on County Administration Building A. There will also be a final budget hearing. That'll be September 21st, 2016. That'll also begin at 5:01 p.m. Again, we'll be here in the Board of County Commissioners Chambers here in County Administration Building A. With that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you very much. And with that, we've really completed this budget workshop. I'd like to thank Jason as his first time here as county administrator, thank Mike for his work as the first-time finance director, and thank his whole crew for doing a wonderful job.
And I'd like to extend thanks to my team here, of course. Budget there, they've been carrying me for a long time, and also like to thank all of the county department heads, all of the county employees. I've only been on the new job for about a week and a half now, but one of the things that struck me more so than ever before is how dependent I will be on all of the other county employees out there. And I feel very fortunate. We've got some of the best, brightest employees you could ask for out there. And thank you to everybody who's cooperated in getting this budget pulled together.
Thank you. We are adjourned.